Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
We are here, and I feel bad for everyone who just watched that intro because they named Jay Crawford.
None of those people.
Adam the Bull and Garrett Bush, and look at us.
None of those people
I'm not
here.
Jay, you're not Bull, you're certainly not Garrett.
I'm not Garrett.
This is like a preseason game in itself, where you don't get to see the starters. We're just trying to make the cut right now.
Hi, I'm Josh Dobbs.
Good to know you.
I'm any receiver on the roster who's healthy right now, so.
Yep, I'm the receiver they just got from the Canadian Football League to replace the receiver that went down yesterday.
Garrett called in sick this morning, so we did a little roster shuffle. So I'm in the host chair. What's up, Mom? What's up, Dad? Thanks for tuning in.
Stop being proud of yourself for being in the host chair on this.
Mike Polk,
show. Hi, how you
joining
doing?
us as always.
Happy to be here.
Jason Lloyd
Hi.
of The Athletic.
Keep that energy the whole show. We need you
We're going to
today.
get a text from Steve Becker. It's 1 minute in and the energy is not high enough, but that's all we have. Jay Crawford joining us virtually from his ultimate man cave.
Oh, Jay's with us.
Jay's
That's
with us
great.
today. Yes, he just is not
Excited.
in studio. Jay, what's up?
McNuggets, I'm worried about Jason because after hearing the energy that he brought to the top there, I closely watched his blinking, and I'm pretty sure he blinked Morse code, get me the hell out of here.
asking
I'm
for
pretty
help.
sure that's what I saw.
I'm glad you picked it up. I
I think you just had a sturdy breakfast and he's a little sleepy.
Help!
That's my theory.
Jason did come in and say he went to bed early,
I
but
did
was
go to
still
bed
tired.
early. I was still tired. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you're old. We're all old.
Seriously, when
That's
did we
it.
get so old?
Sleep doesn't matter anymore.
It's pitiful.
You're screwed no matter what.
And before we get into our topics today, Jay is joining us via the Gridiron Guys hotline, which means Anthony is back in the
hello,
booth today. What's up, Anthony?
Well, whenever we bring in anybody from the Gridiron Guys hotline, we get to do a little fun ad read. So, looking for a local roofer you can trust? Family owned since 2003. The Gridiron Guys have grown to become Northeast Ohio's top-rated roofer. We exemplify quality work practices, are valued resources for homeowners, and offer a 10-year workmanship warranty. Call 330-573-7967 today for a free estimate or roof inspection.
I was thinking about doing one of those.
Gridiron Guys.
I forgot about that disturbing plug. I just imagine somebody tuning into this for the first time. That's the first thing they ever saw. They're just like, "What is this? Who's that guy with the
Mike, what
child?"
I imagine is people walking around the post office when Bull and his son actually taped that. They had to be looking around going, what the hell is going on in here?
Bull is back in studio tomorrow.
Oh, good.
I cannot wait to see the jingles he's concocted on his vacation.
vacation.
He's had 7 days off.
His poor family has been listening to all of his pitches like the whole time. He's just like, "What do you think about a rap? Gridiron Guys." Like, this is the worst vacation we've ever taken. Right now, that's what's happening.
We actually got a viewer submission on a PCC airfoil jingle
Oh, good.
that I have to clear with legal to see if we can play.
It's so ridiculous that we have to do that, but you're right. I know
But-
we have to.
If we do, it's going to rival anything Bull's done. It's from Eddie Everhart, who comments and tweets at us all the time. Eddie sent us a phenomenal jingle. It's just getting cleared. But hopefully tomorrow,
If we
with
get
Bull back in attendance,
Yes.
we will have a new
If we get
PCC
legally
jingle.
cleared for that, I think that opens up the door to other people who want to try and pitch some jingles to us and let us hear your jingles. First of all, so we don't have to hear Bull's same ones every time.
Oh, you know, Bull's going to be sour on whatever.
Bull's going to be absolutely
it's
out,
terrible.
He can
It's terrible.
he can critique them and say how much better his are. That'll be part of the fun. But I'd love to see some of the area songsmiths knocking out some promo jingles. So hopefully legal lets us do that.
Jay, will you be part of this? Will you approve if
Yeah,
we get him?
but I thought that You're Down with OPP was a pretty good one. That wasn't legally cleared.
That's true. It might fall under satire. I don't know. Again, these are all above our pay grade. None of it should matter, but it does.
It
so
does.
we're going to figure that out for you.
Yeah. Well, we got some real
All
topics
right.
to talk to today. No, Jay, sorry. You go first, sir.
No, I'm just ready to go, man. I can't wait to start talking about this Deshaun Watson preseason deal. Is he going to play or not? And my theory is, Jason, I can't wait to hear you weigh in on this. I think the league's going to pull a fast one and come up with their decision before kickoff because they don't want the optics of seeing that guy on a football field. Period. End of it. I could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see him tomorrow. I just don't.
Well, I think the Browns are trying to get him out there before they can't. And if
Right.
if a ruling comes back as an indefinite suspension, he's ineligible to play. So I think they're trying to get him out there, at least get a look at him and knock some of the rust off. They know he's going to be out a while. So this is an opportunity to at least get him on the field, take a couple live reps, get some snaps, and see how he looks. I don't think a decision is going to come before tomorrow, but I've been wrong on half of this stuff, so who knows? But I think, I think Peter Harvey, I think we all know how this is going to go. But if you look at the fact that he just got the case, and look how long Sue Robinson took to render a verdict, I think we were all a little bit premature in thinking it was going to come on Monday. I do think that he is going to try and do his due diligence on this. So it may be after the weekend. I hear what everybody's saying about the NFL doesn't want to see him on the field. I get that. But I think Peter Harvey's working on his own timeline here, much like Sue Robinson was. And I just think this is an opportunity. I'm not terribly surprised that he's playing. I've kind of had that conversation with Zach Jackson for weeks of, hey, listen, throw him out there week 1, against Jacksonville. It reduces the injury risk because he's not going to play for a while, and see what you got.
Mike, do you think that by taking his time with this decision and maybe making the expedited process extended, it takes any of the pressure off Harvey to do exactly what Goodell wants and maybe builds a little more of a buffer between the guy who was hired to make this decision and the guy who we all know is really pulling the strings behind the scenes?
I think that's pretty transparent regardless. I also wouldn't be surprised if we heard something before this game because, as you said, I don't think the NFL wants that story in the news any more than it already is dominating it 24 hours a day. I also wonder if they are looking at this as like they are not looking great if they don't give us this decision and then give us that decision a couple of days later, because it's sort of like, not that the Browns deserve all the accommodation in the world based on this decision or anything, but it does put the Browns in a really lousy situation, and a bunch of Browns players who had nothing to do with this in a really lousy situation as far as prepping for a season. This is one guy, and you've got to think, I feel like you owe it to the Browns to give them this decision prior to their first preseason game before they can make any decisions about how to move forward with their team. You've got to know who to give those reps to. You got to know whether or not he's even going to legally be able to give those or take those early reps. And I think that's why, in order to try and save some face, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard this decision before that game.
But here's what I think is getting overlooked. They can render a ruling unless it's an indefinite suspension. He can still play.
But I think,
Week
and
one.
that's key though, but I mean, there's a decent chance it's going to be an indefinite suspension.
All the
There's
reports
a
say that's what they
chance.
are looking
Well,
for.
there's a difference in a year and indefinite, right?
Right.
And so if it's a year, honestly, this is uncharted waters here. And if it's a year,
So much of this that's the problem.
I don't know if he's eligible or not to play week 1. I think the league has to sort that out. If it's a full year-long suspension, if they say it is 1 year, that's different than saying you're suspended indefinitely and you have to apply for reinstatement next year.
Brings up my
Jason-
follow-up. I'm sorry, and you can answer this too, Jay. I've been wondering this like crazy. I still want to know about what the difference is between the indefinite suspension and a year-long suspension as far as his eligibility for the Browns for that 5th year.
And I don't know that we have an answer. Oh, in terms of the contract?
Yeah, how does that start? Because
Well-
we would, in that case, you would want it to be an indefinite suspension.
He
as a
has to
Browns
play
fan.
6 games this year in order for the contract to count this year.
Okay.
That's the NFL rule. Now, they've been making things up as they go along.
Right.
Maybe that changes with this as well. But and if you remember back to Le'Veon Bell when he was with the Steelers, and there was a question about is he going to show up or not, and he ended up sitting that whole year when he was with the Steelers, and it was the 6-game rule. You have to be on the active roster for 6 games.
Right.
So anything less than 6 games, and the contract does not count this year, and it rolls over into next year.
Okay.
I believe is where we're at with that.
And I wonder how that's going to affect their decision. Is it an extra form of punishment to actually make the sentence just light enough this year so this contract counts as a contract year?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they have to take that into consideration as well.
Jay, do you think the NFL owes the Browns a decision before Friday's preseason opener?
Do they? Yes. Will they comply with that just because that there is the optics of an obligation? No. I said yesterday that I feel that there is now a measure of punishment that is directly aimed at the Browns. I mean, obviously, if Deshaun Watson is suspended, that hurts the Browns. But it's not just that they've suspended him or that they're going to. It's the way they're doing it. This uncertainty all through camp. I watched Jimmy Donovan Tuesday talk about how there has been a real deflation at camp. And Jason, I don't know if you've felt that or not. This was just his opinion. He has felt like since it came out that the league was going to appeal, it feels like someone let the air out of their balloon. And so now, everybody was saying, well, this isn't a distraction. This is just, it impacts Deshaun. No, it impacts the whole team. And now it's really putting a dark cloud over the entire preseason and the entire camp, because this has been lingering for the entire camp. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if at 4:30 tomorrow we hear that there's an indefinite suspension. I really wouldn't, because at this point, I'm going with what can the league do to most disrupt the Browns? And to me, that feels like the most disruptive thing. The other thing, too, is, and Jason, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. If he's suspended for a year, you don't put him out there tomorrow. Why would you? He's not going to see the field this year. I mean, imagine if they put him out there knowing he's not going to play a single meaningful down of football this year and he were to get injured. So I think if it's a year or if it's indefinite, you don't see Deshaun Watson on a football field tomorrow. And I think that's exactly what Roger Goodell and the NFL wants. And as we know, historically, this guy gets his way. He's like a petulant child. If he doesn't get his way, he changes the rules and he keeps going until he does get his way. And ultimately, it feels to me like that's what he wants. So that's what he's going to get.
And you also have to factor in that if the NFL gets too aggressive, I heard Albert Breer talking about this the other day, and I agree with him a little bit, but not all the way. If the NFL does do what we're talking about, and it's a full year or it's indefinite, that opens the door for Deshaun to now sue the NFL and possibly file an injunction or get a restraining order that would get him on the field. And again, I don't want to pretend to be an attorney. There's disagreement even among the legal ranks over whether or not he has grounds to do that. The fact that he didn't appeal the first 6-game suspension, does that mean he's automatically out the first 6 games? These are all issues that are above my pay grade, and I just don't have enough information right now to know. But I do think that if the NFL swings really heavy, it could take this whole thing back to court again. In terms of whether or not he plays, if it's a full year, I'd still play him. Because what do you get? Okay, you're going to give those snaps to Josh Dobbs. Well, is that really going to benefit anyone in the long term? Because if anything, you're giving Deshaun a chance to get back on the football field. He hasn't been out there for a year, and you're not playing him the whole game. You're playing him 2 series. And there is an injury risk, of course, there is. But if he gets hurt, he wasn't going to play anyway. I would still play him just to give him a little bit of a boost, I think. To your point, I wasn't there the day that I wasn't at camp when the ruling came down. I was on vacation or sick, but I was told by people who were there that was the first time Deshaun really looked deflated, was when he found out that the NFL, he was signing autographs. Somebody walked over and told him the NFL was appealing, and that was the first time he really looked sort of deflated or shook throughout this whole process. The Browns thought this would be over by now. They didn't think that this would still be going on. They thought there would be clarity day one of training camp when they stepped out on the field. They knew how this is going to play out. The fact that we're now entering the middle of August and we still have no idea how this is going to go, it has to be weighing on everybody in the organization.
One little weird thing that just occurred to me, if he does end up playing for a quarter or something like that, have the Browns fans been through enough? Do we need to be teased with 1 quarter of really good quarterback play at the beginning of a season before we have to watch what we're about to watch after that?
No, I think they do, because if you get a glimpse of what Deshaun Watson can do, and
you'll know why we're all
potential,
doing this.
It makes the punishment and the wait potentially worth it, because you'll see the comparison of what you had in Baker, what you've had in Charlie Fry, and all the quarterbacks on the back of that jersey, that long list of names.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson, talent-wise, is significantly better than any of those guys on their best day.
Or he was 2 years ago.
Or he was 2 years ago, exactly. And that is fair. He may not be the same player, but yeah, I think that tease, if he comes out and he balls out.
In a preseason game against Jacksonville?
It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that
I think there's a pretty good chance.
He's only playing 2 series at most.
Granted, but
so
if he goes out and balls out, though, it gives you that sense of hope that, hey, I know this has been a pain in the butt, and this has been more tumultuous and treacherous than we ever imagined it would be.
Yeah.
But the light at the end of the tunnel is that. And that is worth waiting.
But you're also going to have a lot more angry Browns fans, like the NFL, not that the NFL gives a damn, but you're going to have a bunch of angry Browns fans going, ugh, like when that decision finally comes down.
Realistically, he's going to be 2 of 6 for 18 yards, and they're going to pull him. Like,
All right.
let's set the bar. You know, he's only getting 2 series.
Wow, you really got it down mathematically.
I'm just saying.
I know what
Stefanski
you're
gave him
saying.
the first 15 play sheet. That's why he knows exactly.
Right.
No, I'm just saying, like,
got the book.
we think he's going to drive the field and score 2 touchdowns, and maybe he does. But realistically, the first 2 series of the first preseason game, you're pretty vanilla. And he's probably, you know, they're not opening things up. It's people who are expecting a very dramatic performance from him Friday, I think are going to be
You just have not been following this narrative of this whole situation then. Because I'm not saying, you're right, realistically that's what should happen. That's typically what does happen in a preseason game. But this is like a ridiculous, awful, messy fairy tale.
So he's going to drive them for 2
So
touchdowns.
he's going to drive them for 2
He's
touchdowns.
a perfect QB rating.
And then somebody's going to like collapse on the ground and start choking to death. He's going to give him the Heimlich and save his life. There's going to be a whole bunch of storylines coming out of this. That's all I'm saying.
Jay, if you were Kevin Stefanski, how much would you play Deshaun Watson tomorrow night, assuming he is allowed to play?
That's a big if, because again, I feel like the NFL is going to swing in at the last second and spoil the day. But if he's allowed to play, I give him a couple of series. But McNuggets, to your point of allowing Browns fans to see what he is, it's a preseason game against Jacksonville. If he throws 2 passes and they're both interceptions, or if he throws 2 passes and they're both touchdowns, it doesn't change my view of what we have here. I think everybody knows the last time we saw Deshaun Watson, he was a game-changing quarterback, and that's what we were looking for. I don't need a quarter of football against Jacksonville to prove that. I just think if it does come down that it's a suspension of a year or indefinite, I would be floored if Kevin Stefanski rolls him out there under those circumstances. I hear what you're saying, Jay. I know that you want to get him, you want to get him out there, but what's the point? It's going to be another year before he takes a meaningful snap. And you know the way I operate in my life, I always try to justify the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And the risk and the reward in those two, to me, it's way too risky to roll him out there knowing that there's no chance he's going to play this season. I just wouldn't do it.
And with a bunch of Jacksonville Jaguars fourth stringers who are trying to make the team and make a name for themselves by taking out Deshaun Watson and get a highlight. And that's another thing.
Exactly.
I don't like the idea of these guys who are out there fighting for their lives,
Well, I
trying to
believe they're
make a
playing
mark
the
for themselves.
starters with him, like
Yes.
the starting offensive line.
Oh,
Like, you're
yeah.
not going to put him out there behind a second or third string offensive line.
Right.
And again, it's the fact that he missed all of last year is part of the reason why I think they want to get him out there. He's already missed a year. And yeah, it's only a preseason game. It's only 2 series that we're talking about. But it's for his morale more than anything.
Yeah.
A guy who's already out a year, a guy who knows he's going to miss the second year. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, I don't care about Deshaun Watson's morale. I understand where you're coming from. The Browns have to care about his morale and where
Yeah,
he's
they
at.
mortgage their future for him.
And so just getting him out there, getting him back on the football field, I think would be good for him.
I do think you're wrong though, Jay. I think that you're right. You will take that. Whatever he does in that preseason game on Friday, I know you'll take it with a grain of salt and you'll see what it means and take it for what it means. But you're not an average Cleveland Browns fan. You analyze these things a little bit more. This is the same people who wanted to sign Baker to a long-term extension when they saw him open a beer with his mouth and chug it in a suite at a Guardians game. And they were just that same fan base is going to see him score a couple of touchdowns, and they're not going to take that with the grain of salt that you do. They're going to go and probably try to burn down Roger Goodell's house or something like that. So let's be honest about our fans.
I understand that. That's a very valid point. But I just think that I hope Kevin Stefanski has a level and cool head with this thing. And Jay, there is so much credence to what you're saying about for his morale. But hopefully he's scratched that itch during training camp. By all accounts, and you know this, he's looked spectacular in training camp. He's made the throws. It looks like he hasn't missed a beat. I don't feel like he needs that to prove to himself that, yeah, I can still do this. He knows that. I really hope, and I hope my cynicism is completely unfounded here and I'm wrong. But as I've been playing this thing out in my head, is he going to appeal? Of course he's going to appeal. He didn't get his way. He didn't get what he wanted. And that's why I feel like he's going to come out sometime between now and kickoff tomorrow and make sure that we don't have the optics of number 4 running onto the field and playing in a preseason football game, because I just think that's a storyline that Roger Goodell doesn't want. And as we know, this dude gets what he wants almost every single time.
One other point that we haven't discussed, and I don't know this, I'm just throwing this out here.
I love your rank speculation. Let's go.
How much is ownership playing into this? How much is ownership saying, hey, paying this guy $230 million, I want to see him on the field.
Uh-huh.
I don't care if it's a series or two. I want to see him on the field. Don't underestimate that. Don't underestimate that.
You know? Yeah, that's a good point.
Tim Couch said on Monday, too, that part of Deshaun Watson's identity is football.
100%.
And he's a large part of it. And he's been out of the game for a year. And mentally, and like you said a second ago, if you don't care about his morale and his mentality, you have every right to do so. But when you take something you love away from a person for that long, even a series or two, if it's that minute of a time on the field, could kind of change his mindset on things, could get him back in the rhythm. Mm-hmm. And even if it is that 2% difference, as Tim Couch, I've never played in the NFL.
Not yet. Not yet.
I think my days are over. My football career was very short-lived and not effective. But if Tim Couch says even 2 series can make that little difference in Deshaun to get back to being himself, then I think it's worth it.
From the Browns' perspective, the joint practices with the Eagles when Philadelphia comes in town is far more important than what's going to happen tomorrow night.
Right.
This is for, I believe, this is for Deshaun, and this is to kind of get him back into the rhythm of playing NFL football. If he's eligible to play in those joint practices with the Eagles when they're here, that's going to be far more crucial in terms of what they actually get out of it.
Here's a weird technical question that I don't know if we've talked about. Okay, so say he is suspended indefinitely. Can Deshaun Watson next year go play for the Montreal Alouettes?
Yes.
He legally could.
He could.
He could just ignore the NFL for a year, go get some reps in with the Alouettes.
But Jay, wouldn't his contract with the Browns preclude him from doing that?
I would imagine probably.
Or is that on hold?
He would void it. I mean, it could, if he got hurt, it would certainly void it. I don't know what the language of the contract, but yeah, him and Johnny Manziel could go play in the.
He's technically not in the NFL if he is suspended indefinitely, so he could go play there if he wanted to, right? Put that on the Chiron, say speculation that Deshaun Watson might play for the Alouettes if he is suspended indefinitely. We'll see if maybe that gets some traction online.
Before we move on to the next topic, does Deshaun Watson play tomorrow night, yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Jay?
I'm going with no, not because of the Browns, just because of I think Peter C. Harvey's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat at 4:30 tomorrow.
And I agree.
And he does look like a magician, so that's really possible.
That's why I went there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I went there.
Yep, like a cheap children's party magician, by the way. Very affordable.
So as we await any decision on the ruling by Peter C. Harvey, something Jay's brought up the last couple of days that we haven't dug into is the role of Deshaun Watson's contract in this whole saga and back and forth with the NFL. And Jay, I'll let you start with this because you kind of inspired this topic of conversation. But how much of a role do you think the Browns fully guaranteeing his $230 million contract is playing as the NFL goes back and forth appealing this and then seeking out an indefinite suspension that seems to be the maximum punishment they could be going for?
I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I used to be the guy who believed in zero conspiracy theories. I always thought they were so far-fetched, most of them. But all of a sudden, when it comes to this, I just feel like I'm loaded with conspiracy theories. I think that it has a great deal to do with everything that's happened so far. I think when he walked from the Sue L. Robinson decision with $0 in fine, and obviously he was going to lose $350,000 as that's, the 6 games of his first year salary. I think the league is furious about that, and I've maintained all along that they were furious about that because I know that Andrew Berry has stated publicly that, that's the way a lot of contracts are done. I just don't buy that. I think that this contract was structured this way specifically to avoid financial punitive impact on Deshaun Watson. And I think that's irritated Roger Goodell. And for the life of me, and Jason, I would love to get your thoughts on this. Why did Sue L. Robinson not institute a fine? She said that she basically went to the limit of the guidelines that the NFL had provided her with. But it seems to me that she could have ended all of this by saying, you know what? I prorated how much he's going to make over his 5 years as a Cleveland Brown. And whatever that number would have been, it would have been far bigger than $333,000. So instead of fining him 6 game checks for year 1, I'm going to fine him 6 game checks if he were to make the exact amount for every game over the 5 years. That would have been, I believe, to over $10 million. that might have quelled some of the people that were looking at her decision saying, wait, what? This can't be all he's getting. You said in your decision, guilty on all 3 counts. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And you're giving him 6 games and no fine. What's your take on that, and why wouldn't she have hit him with a fine?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. I did expect some sort of fine to come with her decision. I'd love to sit down with her over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and find out why there was no fine instituted. I think the contract angered owners for different reasons. And 2 things can be true. It can be sleazy and it can be smart, right? It was smart the way that they did it because the cap situation is real. And the money that they can roll over from this year to next year is real.
Sure.
And so it's smart business. It's good business. It's also sleazy. You're right. It's also kind of gross. And a lot of people will tell you new contracts typically are not structured this way. Yes, NFL contracts have a low base and a high signing bonus, but a lot of times it's a guy that you already have. It's a restructure. It's some when you're bringing in a new player on your team, rarely is it structured this way. Okay, fine. It's still good business and it's still really dirty. It's still kind of gross and sleazy. Both things can be true. I think what the structure of it and the fact that it's fully guaranteed, I think it did aggravate a lot of owners across the league. I heard that when we were at the owners' meetings. Already, like Bisciotti in Baltimore, Arthur Blank in Atlanta, those guys were already very public and on the record saying they didn't like it. But I don't think it's going to have this long-term impact on other quarterback negotiations that other people seem to think it is. Kyler Murray didn't get a fully guaranteed $230.5 million contract. I think his guarantees were $160. No. It looked more like the traditional type of contract, and Kyler Murray is really not even that good, frankly. He's not even in that class that we're talking about. So I'll be interested to see what Lamar Jackson gets. What does Justin Herbert get? What does Joe Burrow get?
Right.
I think that people are going to look, frankly, at the Haslams as that's the crazy uncle over there, and they just do what they do. And that doesn't. And even Bisciotti even said at the owners' meetings, that doesn't mean we have to follow it. Just because they did it doesn't mean it has to become the standard. So I do think it's upset a lot of people. I think you're right that the way that they structured it probably did aggravate some people. And if the league does come back, if Peter Harvey comes back and finds him $8 million, $10 million, that probably will help soothe a little bit. But guess what? He still has $230 million coming. If you want to take $8 or $10 million off the top, okay, he's still not going to starve. And that's why.
But it's better than a third of a million. The optics of it are better than a third of a million.
I agree. I agree with that.
I'm on your side.
Let me ask you guys this. And again, this is the next layer of my conspiracy theory. But as we've watched this whole thing play out, I've said a number of times, to me, it feels like these guys are actors that are playing roles that are already predetermined. Is it possible, Jay, that Roger Goodell and Sue L. Robinson, and I know that she is this woman of integrity and she's a former judge, but it isn't outside the realm of reasonability that they could have all sat down and said, this is how this is going to play out. Sue, hit him with whatever number of games you think. We're going to appeal. Don't hit him with a fine. We're going to appeal, and we're going to throw the financial component. That way they can say to everybody who's been screaming, this is not justice, they can then say, hey, we came down with the hammer on this guy. $10 million is not a small number. We're bound by the 6 games because that's what the guidelines are. But we're going to hit him with $10 million, and we look like the good guy. Sue L. Robinson comes out as a winner. I think Deshaun, to Albert Breer's point yesterday, hell, if it's 10 or 12, he may walk from this and say, I'm done. No suit. I'm happy with that. Let's just get on with the season. So maybe that's what happens. They come down and hit him with a big stiff fine. It stays at 6 games, and I think that's probably the closest thing to a win-win-win for everybody.
I don't think Sue would go. I disagree with that. I don't think Sue would go along with that, number one. I don't think that she's going to be part of
it is a bridge too far, I think.
Some grand plan. Number two, the NFL wants this to go away too. Everybody wants to move on from this. Nobody wants this to drag out as long as it has and as long as it has. And I disagree with Albert. I think Deshaun does sue regardless of how long it is. Because if he would accept 10 or 12 games, then just settle at that number. That's what's been out there in terms of a settlement. If both sides can agree to that, then you don't even need Peter Harvey. You just come to an agreement. You come to a settlement of 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, whatever it is in there. And again, remember what I just said, 6 games counts as a full year on a contract. That's really important to Deshaun, to the Browns, to all of this. So there's a huge difference in this case between 11 games and 12 games. But
but Roger came out this week though, Jason, and said, I want a year.
Right. But that's why I'm saying, if you're worried about, if you think that Deshaun will accept 10 or 12 games and he won't take that to court, I disagree with that, because if he was going to accept 10 or 12 games, then he would just settle that. That he would just settle at that number, and then the NFL could live with that. The fact that he won't settle at that number tells me he will take it to court if it's 10 games or 11 games or 12 games.
There's also a public perception factor here, and the NFL is all about optics. More than facts and anything else, they're about optics, and they've looked terrible, frankly, since the Sewell Robinson decision came out. Them appealing after the NFLPA came out and said, we're not going to appeal. To have that whole process go through and then say, LLJK, we're going to do our own thing. They looked bad. They looked bad. I think it came across poorly that Roger Goodell used the words egregious and predatory behavior in his press conference.
Not ideal.
Day. Yeah, they've come across so poorly in this that I can't see a way, back to Jay's conspiracy theory, that this has all been in play beforehand. Although, Jay, you do put some interesting pieces of the puzzle together. There's one piece missing. I'm not sure what that piece is, but there's one piece missing connecting where we started in this process and where we're ending, because it shouldn't end in a situation where Roger Goodell can appoint his friend to make the final verdict. His friend's going to predictably do whatever Goodell actually wants, and that's how this whole 24-month process is going to end.
First of all, I love that Jay spent like 2 weeks in COVID protocol and just went complete conspiracy theory, like a lot of people who were trapped at home during. He's going to start coming and wearing
tinfoil
QAnon
hat is
shirts
behind
and
him.
stuff. It's going to be a disaster. I think that the mistake.
Guys, I've had nothing but time on my hands. Get me out of here.
I think that a lot of the problems with conspiracy theories is that we're always expecting them to be so blatantly laid out there. You expect them all to have been in a smoke-filled room, and there's like, and now here's how it's going to go. Here's the secret PowerPoint presentation. And then, Sue, you're going to say this. I think conspiracies more often happen a bit more organically and quietly. I think there were probably certain expectations that were just assumed. I think that maybe there was some, I just don't think you're ever going to find an email chain directly saying, and then we'll pretend to do this, and then we'll do this games, and then we'll add this many games. I think it is a fluid situation, but I also think that Sue knew that she was a hired contractor by the NFL who was expected to make a judgment based within certain parameters, based on precedent, and based on whatever sort of direction she was given by her employer, the NFL. So we can't be surprised when she came back and said, these are my findings, and this is exactly what I can say based on the parameters that you gave me. And I also think it's the NFL's prerogative. It was right there in their contract. Nobody pretend, everybody acting outraged. Like, can you believe that the NFL acted in what they consider to be their best interest within the letter of the law and the union contract that the NFL players signed? It's outrageous. It's really not. It's extremely predictable. Has nobody been watching the NFL at any point? Did you really think they were going to back down and be like, you guys got us? It doesn't happen. So this idea that somehow it's the shock that is annoying to me. Everybody just be like, can you believe that the NFL did this and followed up? It's like, yes, of course. That's what they do.
Yeah, I don't know if no one should be surprised. As you said,
Right.
It was in the cards before this even started. We knew before they picked Sewell Robinson to be the neutral arbitrator that no matter what she said, Roger Goodell could appeal that process and appoint himself to
Right.
give the punishment. So surprise is not the right word. It's more of the optics of it. This was a neutrally agreed upon person who now all of a sudden went through this whole process, spent 2 weeks, 3 weeks coming up with a decision to then have it just be thrown out the window.
I've seen a lot of players online and stuff, NFL players, not just Browns, but everybody. This is the other thing the NFL kind of has to watch with us, I feel like, who are complaining about this process. And most of whom you can tell, frankly, probably weren't aware. They didn't read everything in the union bylaws that they signed off on and that people agreed to, the people in charge of their union. And I see a lot of them being really angry right now at the NFL and talking about, that's the one thing the NFL, they do care about PR. They don't, even though they can do it, and they want to do it, and they do it, they don't want to look like these 1% villains who are, that's just not good PR for them, and they care about PR. But they only care about it enough to try and not have that reputation. They don't care about it legitimately, and they're not like, well, we should really be fair. they're saying we should give the appearance enough to be fair that everyone stops yelling at us and and it doesn't cause more problems. That's what it feels like right now to me.
And Tyvus was on the show earlier this week talking about signing the collective bargaining agreement that's now in place, and he said, yeah, I didn't read the whole thing. I just listened to what the older guys in the locker room said and signed what they wanted to do.
Who reads their Verizon wireless plan before they click that box?
So there is shock and awe from that perspective. But
I'm still paying for the show, for that TV movie shows, or the movie station Stars. I accidentally signed up for it at one point, like 8 months ago. I'm into that thing for like $700 now or something. I've never watched it. It's a bunch of terrible movies. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, yeah, you don't read the fine print all the time, and you just expect that somebody's operating in your best interests, and that's what. And so there's some anger too, I think, at the NFL union reps from other NFL players. They're like, we got walked on. You guys just accepted this, and I just don't think they expected it to come up like this and in such an egregious way.
This is such a small piece of the CBA.
Yes.
It comes up once every handful of years. It's only 2-3 players out of, I don't know, 50 times 30 in the league. You know,
Yes.
It's a huge. So it's just something that, okay, whatever.
And they never could have seen it being the first time that it was being tested, really, it being this nightmarish and complicated
exactly
and
right.
unprecedented of a scenario when they agreed to it. They thought it might be a drug test thing, or they thought it might be something kind of simple they've dealt with before. And they were like, yeah, and then we'll do that. We'll send it there. It looks good. They just didn't expect it to be this big cluster F that it ended up turning into. And this was just the worst case scenario for it to be the first attempt to try and use this new system. And it's failing miserably.
Well, it happened to be to a marquee player. Jason, what do you think would have happened if this same storyline was around an undrafted free agent who was a guy in camp? How long would have it taken any team in the league to immediately release that player? The story is never heard about again.
That's exactly right. The guy gets cut, he's off, and he's working construction by now.
Remember that third stringer Brown who got busted for insider trading or whatever?
Yeah,
I mean, nobody was just like, we got fight for him, bring him back. We just never heard from him again.
It always has to do with the talent of the player, the status of the player every single time. And to Mike's point, I don't think anybody saw it being such a high-profile case, such a high-profile star, being sort of the litmus test case of trying to figure this out as they go.
Jay, do you think it leads to change? Do you think that the next collective bargaining agreement, there's no language that says, hey, in any disagreement, I get to break all ties? That can't be in the next CBA.
Well, I was talking about that with Tyvus the other day, and I said, like, this collectively bargained, so if the players' union wants to push back on this, everything's a negotiation. They're going to have to give something up. What does the league want the players to give up? And he went right to the pensions and said the league wants to take the pensions of the retirees. So this becomes
That's so
I
gross,
know.
so villainous.
So this becomes a really complicated issue of, okay, if you don't want Roger, and who knows if that's true or not, but like he was right instant. He said, listen, the pensions are a really big deal to the league. So this becomes a lot more complex. This becomes like a political issue of, hey, this bill we have here, but you slide in this really dirty component that has nothing to do with the bill to try and get it passed, or why you vote things yay or nay. This is sort of the same thing. If the league wants this, or if the players' union wants this changed, they're going to have to give something up, and they're going to have to give something up of significance, because it's in there now.
We want to stop paying on. We want to stop paying on Dan Fike's pension from like one of those players from the 1980s that made like $80,000 a year and had to work like summer jobs. They want to take away his pension. He's in a wheelchair from being on the line for that long.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, sorry, Grandpa, we had a new negotiation, and now we're taking away your Social Security. Sorry, guys.
To answer your question, Mike.
Well, it would be to future players, right, Jay? I mean, this wouldn't affect any of the grandfathered players that are already in on a deal. They're not going to take existing pensions away.
I don't
think
know.
what they're trying to fight for.
They do it in regular everyday life. They screw with the retirees, and they mess with their money.
I just
and their
can't
insurance.
imagine they would ever get away with that. I can't imagine they would ever.
It's up to the union.
Would they like to? Sure.
It's up to the union if the union will protect the retirees or not.
Well, the current CBA runs till 2030, so we have seven more years of Roger Goodell as the supreme.
And I'll be interested to see if there's another case. That's a long time. Is there another one or two cases that fall into the personal conduct policy that have to go through this process again, and how does it play out? It'll be interesting to see.
I don't mean to take us off topic, but I've noticed this the last couple of times in here. Jay, is that my Yeti mug you're drinking out? Did I leave that at your house and you've been using it? Because that's like one of my favorite cups. Is that yours? Oh, it's yours. Although you could have had that put on.
Conspiracy theory. He ran out and had his name put on.
Because I have that same mug. You've been drinking out for 2 days. I'm like, is that my mug? Did I leave that at its place? Because I missed that.
This was a gift for a wedding that I was in, so I can assure you that this is mine.
I love that cup,
and
though.
even if it was yours, you would never want to drink out of this ever again. Because I've been drinking out of this for the last 10 days.
Yeah, you got.
So by
throw
now,
that
I'm
into
sure
a
the
fire
COVID
pit.
particles have actually become part of this.
There's
cup.
2 new strains in that thing, at least, no doubt. Yeah, that's all right. It's a good cup. Anyways, great cup, Jay. I like it.
Well, we have
Thanks. We have good taste.
We have Tyvis coming on in the second hour of the show, so we'll be able to ask him what his thoughts on possibly trading off something in the CBA is. But let's get to the next topic. And Jay, this was one that we wanted to talk to you about. You weren't here when we kind of touched on it earlier in the week or last week, but all reports out of Carolina right now say Baker Mayfield is doing his thing. And he was 4 for 4 in red zone drills with 4 touchdowns yesterday. Let's clap it up for some practice stats. Let's clap it up for practice
Was it the
stats.
fourth quarter? Was any of that in a fictitious fourth quarter?
There was a lot of 4s in the tweets, Jay. I'm not positive it was the fourth quarter drills per se. But it does seem like he's taking a commanding lead in Carolina for that starting job, which sets up a week 1 matchup, which Mike Polk will be at in Charlotte.
You bet.
Between
On
most
the
likely
ground.
Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield. So
Big
Jay,
showdown.
As the resident Baker bro on the set here, do you have any seller's remorse now knowing what you know about Watson in this situation?
Look, I mean, I'm pretty much on record as saying I wouldn't have done this in the first place. It doesn't mean that I think Baker Mayfield is better than Deshaun Watson. I don't mean that. I've never said that. What I've said all along was, to be consistent, I felt like the team was positioned well enough that based on his entire body of work, which included 2020 and a trip to the playoffs, and not just judging him off 2021 when he was clearly wounded, I felt like if everything broke their way, they could still get to where they wanted to go with this guy. Am I surprised that he's tearing up practice? No. He's a 4-year starter in the NFL. He should tear up practice. What will surprise me is if once we get to the regular season and we get into serious crunch time, if he all of a sudden becomes this unbelievable playmaker in situations where the Panthers need him to come through for them to win games. He wasn't that guy in Cleveland. I can't argue that he was that guy. So I'm not surprised by any of this. I've talked to a couple of media members that are there and they've been to camp. In fact, next week we're going to have the play-by-play voice for the Carolina Panthers on, Jim Zoki. He's a former friend of mine from college. Look, they say what we were saying about Baker in 2021 camp. Jason, you remember, right? 2020 camp. We were saying this guy, everybody thought the quarterback quandary was solved before the injury. Everybody thought the quarterback situation was finally over. Even those that wanted Baker gone, they were quietly sitting in the shadows waiting for him to throw that fourth quarter pick so they could jump out and say, see, there he is.
I don't know about
always
that.
Shows up.
I disagree because I wanted Deshaun even before all this crap. I wanted him when the trade first came out.
Even before the injury. So
yes.
after 2020, when Baker almost got the win at Kansas City, you still were saying, let's trade in Baker for
there's
Deshaun.
Footage of me on 92.3 saying, go get Deshaun.
You've got that saved somewhere, don't you?
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Wow.
Because we had a conversation on 92, and believe me, like, they wanted to strangle me. And I'm like, listen, Deshaun's better. Like, he's not, like, Baker. I kind of compared it to the Warriors and their big, long title run of, hey, man, you need a guy. Baker is not that guy. You need that guy. Deshaun is that guy that can help you take down
I give you a
Kansas
lot
City.
of credit. If you were saying that after 2020, you were the lone voice in a one-person choir. Because
Baker blocked Zach Jackson for writing it because Zach wrote it on our site that they should explore Deshaun. And Baker
Very classy.
And Baker blocked him for writing that
no
story.
negativity in my life,
So there were some of us who were saying it before all of these allegations and before things got really messy, I absolutely.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard Deshaun was available and he requested a trade, I'm like, go get that guy. That's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's better than what you have.
These are different
Even
questions,
with all
though.
the baggage that he was carrying.
Well, then I had to like sit back and go, okay, wait a minute. And that's why to this day it would be hypocritical of me to come out and condemn the Browns for this trade, because I wanted him before the allegations, and I even had conversations with Browns personnel at the combine saying, hey, go get 4. Why not go get 4? And what came back to me was, we have to wait for the grand jury to come back, because if he's indicted, he's going on the exempt list and he's out for the year, which goes back to the big heated fight we had with Bull. There's no way they make this trade as it was constructed if they believed he was out for the year, because they were waiting to see if he was going to go on the exempt list, which my point in all of this has been, the league should have just put him on the exempt list. If this is what they wanted, if they wanted a year, if they wanted indefinite, just put him on the exempt list and let the teams know the rules of engagement before the trade even went down.
Yeah, so that somebody like probably Jimmy Haslam doesn't have the opportunity to pull the trigger and be like, let's get him, without having all the information, which some owners are.
And in fairness, there was a lot more than just Jimmy that wanted to go get him.
Of course, but he was the one who was willing to pay the most and the most guaranteed.
To pay the most.
To get it done.
Yep.
That's true. And I think the other question, though, isn't here necessarily, would you have done this Deshaun Watson trade again, and what with Baker looking good down there? The question is, should we have gotten rid of Baker given the uncertainty of our quarterback situation and our quarterback room right now, knowing that he might be looking it along? And now you've got him down there making some noise. And, I mean, it's obviously easy to do that in preseason or in practices and whatnot. But the better question now is, would you have made this Baker move that we made still for what we unloaded him for and what we're still paying him for, rather than have a proven, win healthy, decent quarterback to bridge us to the next thing? Yes,
I still make the deal. I think the relationship was too far gone by that point. And we talked about this a little bit when I was in before. And again, the 6-game thing is going to be a really big. It could be a really big deal in terms of what they do, because the easy fix to all of this, and we've talked about it before, you go get Jimmy G. Yeah. That's the easy fix to all of this. He can sort of unite the locker room. Guys love playing with him. He's a really nice bridge for 1 year. Mm-hmm. If Deshaun's out for the year. If it's less than 11, if it's 11 games or less, and it's in that gray area where Deshaun's contract still counts now. Now, if you go get him, you can't roll that money into next year, which is a really big deal going forward. So if the suspension comes to where Deshaun is eligible for 6 games or more, the Browns have a really difficult decision to make in whether or not to go get Jimmy G, because right now they've downgraded the quarterback position. Jacoby Brissett's not as good as Baker.
No,
I freely admit that.
Right.
So you're in a tough spot now.
Yeah.
I think 2 things. You make the Deshaun Watson trade every day of the week and twice on Sundays. When you have a chance to get a top 5-7 quarterback, there's only 5-7 of those guys in the league.
And they never become available.
They don't become available. They don't become available at 26 years old, which is when the whole Texan situation when he sat out. And you're looking at quarterbacks playing now till they're 38, 40 years old. You might have 12 to 14 years of Deshaun Watson. And even if he sits out this year,
McNuggets.
Yes.
In a vacuum, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no arguing with that in a vacuum. If you have a chance to get a top 7 quarterback, you pull the trigger. But it wasn't just that simple. It was a top 7 quarterback that hasn't played in a year and might not play for another year.
And who has a cloud over him.
Dismiss that part of the equation.
I'm not totally dismissing that, but if Watson for the next 2 seasons is not the Deshaun Watson who we saw in Houston, it's not like he's 39, 40 about to retire. Mm-hmm. He's 27, 28, and Tom Brady's just turned 45 and might be the best quarterback in the league.
I know, but
you may still have Watson.
The one thing we have to be careful about doing, though, is trying to extrapolate Tom Brady to everybody else.
Anything.
And that's what you're doing when you're saying, hey, quarterbacks are playing to 45 now. No, they're not.
Right.
One of them is.
Yes, he's
and
the
he's
exception.
the freak
got Tom
of
Brady
nature.
in the 7th round.
But he's the exception.
You can find him.
Aaron Rodgers won MVP last year.
There's also, guys,
38.
when did Tony Romo leave? How old was Tony Romo when he left the league?
36, 35?
I don't know.
Okay.
But the rules have changed.
I think that's even old. I don't think he was 36.
But
even
one way
since
or another, Romo left, the rules have changed to protect quarterbacks even more. Quarterbacks have never been more protected and shielded than they are in today's game.
Agreed, but they still get old. And Tom Brady is just a freak of nature. We shouldn't look at Tom and say, well, hell, you can sign a 35-year-old quarterback to a 10-year contract because Tom did it. Tom hasn't eaten a grain of sugar in 12
No.
years.
He's in a zero
Tom
gravity
trains,
tank right now somewhere floating around.
He's figured out a way to train during his sleep. I don't know
Yeah.
how he does it, but like you can't. You're dangerous. You're going into a scary place if you start looking at Tom Brady. You still take the average quarterback. I don't know, Jay. Off the top of your head, I would say the average quarterback in the NFL. And it's easy to say, well, you can look at all the guys, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, all of the guys that have long careers. Eli Manning, your favorite person in the world. How old was he when he was out of the league? McNuggets.
Romo was 36 when he retired. Eli was 37.
Let's use Roethlisberger. I just looked it up. Ben's 40 now. He was good until what? 37, 38. His last 2 years were rough.
Bad. Let's just say
So
bad. Yeah.
so
Now
let's
I'll
say,
give you a Jay Cutler.
Oh, he sucked when he
How
was
old was
25.
Cutler's not on the same
Jay
level
Cutler
as
was
Watson,
a starting
though.
quarterback in the league. What I'm saying is they don't all play until they're 40.
No.
So this assumption that you're going to get Deshaun Watson for 14 years, that's such a stretch. You just can't do that. He's had an ACL injury already.
Fair. I think we can safely say he will play at a high level. I wouldn't even say elite. He will play at a high level till 35. Can we agree on that?
I'll give you that.
And how old is he now?
I will.
27.
28
years.
27.
So you can get 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. You can get 8 years out of him if he stays in Cleveland all that time.
I know. I
which
love
I'm not
that
convinced
you've
he
already
does.
extended his contract.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
love
even
that.
sure.
Everything's going so well.
what'll
I'm
be
already
fun to
sure he's
see-
here the life of the
Jay.
this contract.
Yeah.
It'll be fun 8 years from now to look back at this conversation. And look, I hope Deshaun is still our quarterback. If he is, that means that he's been very successful because you don't stay that long with one team, especially with a contract like that, unless you're breaking expectations. So I hope 8 years from now we all get together and say, wow, he really did make it until 35. Because I just know the Browns' track record with quarterbacks. Even when we finally thought we had one, we were wrong.
Yep.
We didn't. We had the rug pulled out
Got rid
from
of
under
that
us.
guy. Scared that guy out of town. Get out of here, you guy who won us a playoff game.
Oh my! Get over the playoff game. I'm so tired of hearing about one playoff game.
I know.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Can
no,
we
I
talk about like they were up 7-0 before he even went on the field?
Boy, you're still pissed
Like,
about it, huh?
oh my! I'm just so tired.
He really is.
He
Jay-
won a
Jay hasn't
playoff
let that
game.
go.
He won a playoff game.
Came from nowhere, Jay.
Okay,
You gotta
Jared Goff took the Rams to the Super Bowl, and they said you're not good enough. Jimmy G took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and they said we can do better.
I'm not saying he's a great quarterback. I'm saying in the valley of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And we were in the valley of the blind for so long. And then finally this kid comes around. He's got, he's got some pizzazz. So, but that's why we're excited. Is it not? You know this fan base. Is that not
I'm aware.
understandable to you?
Drive me crazy every day.
I get it.
I think Polk's actually right, though. And my point kind of got off topic saying I would still trade for Watson.
Right.
I think in a hypothetical world where the Browns championship, not hypothetical, the realistic world, the Browns championship window is 2-3 years with the way their current roster is structured and salaries. It's last year.
You buy
this
that,
year,
Jay?
And next year.
Yeah, probably. As currently constructed,
Now, it could be extended when they rework contracts and re-sign guys. As currently constructed,
probably 3 years.
We got Njoku locked down for a while. We should be fine.
Baker gives you a better chance to win than Brissett. And if there was any way to mend that relationship, I am so not sold on Brissett keeping this team afloat.
Yeah.
And maybe, I know I'm not the only one that thinks that way, but I'm so off the Brissett can keep this bandwagon afloat train that I would have tried to find a way
Yes,
to make
and
anything
again,
work.
I know we've been through it before, and I know this argument makes everyone mad, but I don't care if he's unhappy. He plays great when he's unhappy. I don't care if he's playing out there like he has something to prove, and he's like, screw you guys, this is my last year, get me out of here. You got somebody better waiting for me. Have him go out and play pissed off. I would love that.
Okay,
That's,
but for what it's worth, Jadeveon Clowney's not here if Baker Mayfield's here.
True.
Okay.
He's not back.
True.
Myles Garrett's not happy if Baker Mayfield's here.
True.
Now, he's under contract and he's going to play well.
Was it that bad between them? They hated him?
I'm just throwing out big-name guys that were ready to move on.
Yeah, I
from
hadn't
the
heard that
quarterback.
before.
Did you know, though, that they specifically didn't like him? Because I'd like to know that going into this Carolina game I'm about to
Myles
watch.
and Baker, or just in
Or
general?
Jadeveon, who any of them.
There was
David didn't follow Watson.
nobody. Let's put it this way: teams will always try and downplay the bad and play up the good.
Right.
That's what they do. No one pushed back on how damaged the relationship was last year with Baker. Nobody pushed back on that. The response was, well, winning will cure it. Like,
Yep.
let's change out some of the faces that really were not happy, which they did. Odell, Jarvis, those guys are gone. And let's win some games, and a lot of that will go away. But no one disputed the fact that the locker room was damaged last year when Baker was here.
And there have been guys that have come out and said the vibe in camp is significantly better now.
Yeah, but I don't even pay any attention to that.
And that's just hearsay, but some of those comments you do have to take with a little bit of truth and reality, because you don't just say that to say that.
Right.
You say that if there is some tangible evidence
Right.
that maybe it's a little closer, and who knows if it's Watson. And
I don't
tomorrow
know,
we'll talk about
Mike. Jay, you know that guys will gloss over any warts that are inside the line. They don't bring that stuff to the public. And you can go back, Jay. Have you ever covered a team when you ask the team, hey, how's the chemistry? How's the camaraderie? Have you ever covered a team? Because I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've covered a lot of NFL camps. I've never asked that question in an NFL camp, ever, and had a player say, no, it's really not that bad.
trash.
In fact,
Everyone's mad.
once practice is over, we all run to our rooms. Nobody eats dinner together. The chemistry kind of sucks.
Here's a list of the guys that I don't like.
They all say the same thing. And because I've been trapped in my home, I have the NFL Network on a loop, and they're doing all their camp visits. And it's so funny to me because I've never watched this volume of it before. But every single camp, the guys are saying exactly the same thing.
Yep.
So it's jock speak. I just
Yep.
don't put a whole lot into it.
Yep.
And then after the fact, guys might say, you know what, things weren't great with Baker.
Yep.
Well, they were asked how they were when he was around, and no one seemed to complain about it then. So you're never going to get the truth from
And
these
the other
guys
thing about
in the moment.
The other thing about the vibe conversation is it's coming from 60 sports writers who are standing on the sidelines trying to find any storyline to write about. So if they see two guys laughing off to the side, they're just like, the vibe is electric here in Berea today. I've got posts, tags.
One thing I will say, and I can't name the player. He's on the Browns roster now. He's still a current player. I asked him, we were having a conversation after the Deshaun trade, and I said, how well do you know Deshaun? And the response was basically like, know him in passing, know him a little bit, just say, hey, how are you, that sort of thing. Nothing great. And there was a pause, and he said, I knew him about as well as I knew Baker.
Okay.
So there you go.
That was defender?
Was it a defensive player? Can you tell us that, though? Was it a defensive player?
I can't. I don't want to say on the air.
Who's
But
Tyvis Powell?
Because, the reason, Jason, the only reason I asked that is because, as you know, these guys are in their own rooms. They're in their own position rooms.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for an offensive player to say of a defensive player, I really don't know. He's on the other side.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
everybody
spend
should
much
know the
time with him.
quarterback. Everybody
Yeah,
should know the
I agree.
quarterback.
Right.
Quarterback's
Yeah,
different.
but it's not always the case. That's not always the case. I remember asking some of the Patriots defensive players early in their great Super Bowl runs about Tom Brady. And the one thing that I remember that stood out to me was a lot of the guys go, he's a quiet guy. I mean, he's a leader, obviously, on the offense, but he's not a boisterous guy that everybody knows, everybody feels like they know. I don't think it's necessarily an indictment if a defensive player would say
this
of
was meant as an
somebody on the
indictment.
offense.
The way he said it was
Well,
meant as
Right.
an
You
indictment.
got the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I just think it's very important to the context of this conversation if that person was an offensive player or a defensive player.
Right. I just can't believe you're admitting right here that Myles Garrett said that and hated Baker Mayfield. put that in the lower third.
No.
Confirmed. Jason
No,
Lloyd.
Not saying that.
All right.
Not
Hey,
saying
Jay,
that.
we were scrolling through the internet yesterday, and we saw something that we needed your take on. So, Anthony, take it from here.
Yeah, so see if we can go ahead and take tab board here. And whenever we bring something on from the internet, it's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio, and all locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions at $18 an hour and up. Plus, get a full benefit package, paid time off, and signing bonus. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more.
Jay, have you ever played baseball with a phone in your pocket?
So you know what? It's so funny that you asked that because obviously phones weren't a big thing when I was playing my most competitive baseball, but I continue to play.
And because the phones
oftentimes
would have
I
been,
do
like,
have
huge.
my phone in my back pocket before the game. I'll just throw it in there, and then once I get in the dugout and I start getting loose, I'll throw it in my bag. But I have accidentally kept it in there during a bullpen session before a game, and I've realized it was there, and I've taken it out. As for what happened here, it's fascinating. So on the surface, no, there's really no way that you're not allowed to have a phone on the field, obviously. It was funny, the umpire's reaction when he saw it was just like, hey, that's your phone. And he just, the player, was like, wow, caught red-handed, and he picked it up and he put it back in his pocket. But it's interesting because my son said something when we were talking about it. He said, you could actually get an advantage if someone was in the clubhouse and they were picking off signs, which now teams have done a much better job. And I'm not sure in this game whether or not the catcher was flashing signs or not. But you could actually get an advantage because somebody in the clubhouse could just pick off the signal and then sign and then say if I buzz you with a text, then you're going to get a fastball. And if you don't get a text from me, it's something off speed. I'm not saying he was doing that. In fact, I'm sure he wasn't. But it's possible that you could do that to relay signs, right, Jay?
Absolutely, and that goes back to the whole Astros and Red Sox and everything else with the Apple Watches and communication. That's why I agree with you. On the surface, this is no big deal. Maybe he forgot it was in there. More than likely, although I don't know how you not feel that.
I'm not buying it.
It's odd.
I know.
But it's not like he's going to pull it out at second base and go, here comes a fastball.
No, but he could receive a message and feel the buzz.
Yeah. But you could also do that on a watch or something that's a lot smaller of a device than this gargantuan phone that's taking up your entire pocket.
Well, the Astros banging on trash cans was the stone age of cheating in baseball. This is now the 21st century.
But there was something with the Apple Watches and the Red Sox. I don't remember the whole story now. But and that's why Apple Watches are banned and all that. It's because of exactly what we're talking about.
Why do we not have a lower third up yet that says Jay Crawford swears Pirates using signals, stealing signals, need to be investigated by league? Why do I have to tell
Mike,
you?
you know why?
That would fit.
All right, well.
Because they're terrible.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
If it was, I'll guarantee you, if this were Aaron Judge, this would be a headline story on ESPN for 48 hours.
If the
nonstop.
Pirates are cheating, think
Guarantee
how bad
it.
they're at that too.
We actually got some really good internet responses to that, though. Anthony, let's run through the tag boards of some of the responses, and Jay will let you go here. But when your girl needs your location at all times,
Why don't you text me back?
Why are you on second base right now?
as we just alluded to there, Mr. Pope. The Pirates definitely are not
They're
cheating.
not
They're
cheating,
terrible.
apparently.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
Nope.
they're real bad.
The real
Sliding into
definition
the
of
DMs.
sliding into the DMs.
Not bad.
I like that.
That's really good.
Call about his
He
car's
didn't want to
extended.
miss the call about his car's extended warranty. That's important.
That makes two of us.
Think there's one more, right, Anthony? Maybe not.
There it is.
Just
There
in
you
case
go.
he needed
Just
to
in
get his
case he
Calvin
needed to
Ridley
get
on.
his Calvin Ridley on the live bet to himself to steal third. Yeah, that's good.
I like the internet.
I like sliding into the
Very
DMs
nice.
the
Yeah.
best.
Hey,
that's wrong.
guys, Mike, I am leaving here at the top of the hour. Are you guys going to talk about the Guardians in the second hour?
We're going to touch on it very quickly.
Yeah, if we
Very
have to.
quickly.
I know
they're
yesterday
in
you
first
guys
place.
implemented the whole thing about putting Deshaun Watson stats and figures on the screen while you talk Guardians to make sure that you keep the numbers. I love that. Mike Polk, you're a genius.
Yeah, it's been helping out.
Brilliant.
The numbers don't dip.
Yeah, that's great. So before I go, I'll just say that I've enjoyed watching the Guardians the last couple of nights as they've had to scrap. Last night, they really had to scrap their way to another victory over the Tigers. They scored 3 runs early, then they completely went to bed. They went the last 20 hitters without recording a hit or a base runner. But then the bullpen comes in, and even though they bent, they didn't break. It was a phenomenal victory. And I can't believe we're saying this, but last year at this time, the Atlanta Braves were, I believe, under 500 or right at 500, and they went on to win the World Series. So I'm saying there's a chance. This club is in first place, and there's 50-some-odd games to go in the season. Who would have thought? But once again, Terry and the front office are pulling a rabbit out of a hat. So keep it going, guys. Enjoy the next hour of your show. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, brother. Feel better.
Thanks, Jay.
See you, Jake.
Thanks, man.
Later. We need another lower third. Jay Crawford guarantees World Series championship by Guardians. Get that one going, too.
And the only thing more surprising, I think, than the Guardians being in first place with 52 games to go is us getting Tyvis Powell on a show with his crazy schedule.
I know.
Tyvis, the man of
What an
7,321 different jobs.
He's on Air Force
No
One right
sleeves,
now.
Tyvis.
No sleeves.
Yeah, I was I got a little workout the other day. Figured I'd go out and look at
Shows, man. Gun
Yeah,
shows.
the sun is shining. You might as well go ahead and show what I've been working on.
That's a luxurious background you found yourself there.
The flowers still behind you?
Hey, listen, y'all gonna stop doing this.
That's all right. You look like you're in a condo that you're considering renting.
Listen, I have not got around to finding the picture and the stuff that I want to hang up on this wall.
Yeah.
This is my wife handles all this, and she told me that she's gonna find something to hang right there. So
Tyrus, you should just flex in that shirt and take a picture, blow it up to a poster size, and put it behind you.
A bunch of pictures of you flexing.
Yeah, I should do that, and I think the wife would hate that. She probably would down
Even more reason to do it.
Next time I'm at the thrift store, Tyrus, I'm going to get you some stuff, some art to put behind you.
Please don't.
I will. I'm on really interesting Baroque tastes. You'll see.
I'm fine. I'll get it figured out.
All right, good.
So
I'm worried about the wrong thing. Focus. This is where you focus. Y'all looking at it too much.
All right.
Tyvis, we started the show talking about Deshaun Watson playing in tomorrow night's preseason game. As of right now, this moment, 12:05, 41 seconds. He is still on pace to play in the Browns.
That's our starter, QB1.
On pace to start. Tyvis, if you're Kevin Stefanski, how much would you play Deshaun Watson in tomorrow's preseason opener against the Jaguars?
Well, first of all, before I answer that question, I just wanted to do my Jay Crawford impression.
Look, he's even got his name on it, too.
Yeah, he ain't the only one. Huh? Anyway.
You guys have been in a lot of weddings.
I think Deshaun Watson should play probably a quarter. And I know that's a lot, but it technically is only 2 series, maybe 3, because a quarter kind of goes like that, especially if they're going to run the ball. But I think you owe it to him you don't want him to go 2 years without playing. If he does get a year, you don't want him to go 2 years without playing. So you get him back on the field, get him acclimated in the offense, let him feel the rush, see if he can still move around and make all the throws. I'm not saying I'm not saying every play call a pass play, because that's not going to happen. He's realistically probably throw at best 10 passes. But you need those 10 passes to be something that the city is like, okay, I see it. I'll be excited for when he comes back. And I think that's what they should do.
Tyvis, did you ever miss an extended period of time in your career due to injury? And if so, how hard was it to come back and get reacclimated to game speed? Even in a preseason setting, how hard was it to get back up to those game speed reps?
Well, Mike, I was known for winning the Iron Man award. I've never missed a game ever in my career, which is like, I pride myself on that, but I did get have some injuries where I had a sports hernia and a broken wrist that allowed me to miss maybe a couple of weeks. But coming back, it wasn't bad. I mean, it takes you about a good week to get back into shape. That's the first part. And then to get like your technique and all that stuff back, it take about a good 2 weeks of solid practice and going against it. And that's when I think Deshaun Watson should be fine in that aspect. But it's nothing like game reps. Like practice reps and game reps are 2 totally different things. When it's on the line and everything matters, people tend to play differently. So, you want to be able to see him do that.
That's my question, Tyvis. What is the mentality of players in a preseason situation when they're out there rather than a regular season situation? Is it like a totally different way of approaching the game?
Well, it depends on who you talking to. You talking to undrafted Tyvis Powell. Oh, this is the Super Bowl for me. I got to get out here and make something happen. If you're talking about a guy who's secure and know that he's going to be there, it's just getting out there and getting that game feeling again and making sure that you still got it. That's really what that's about. You're tired of going against your boys every day in practice. You want to go against some other competition to make sure that what you've done in the offseason has worked and you have improved your game. And that's, if you're a starter, that's typically where you want to be.
Does that offer more danger, though, to those regular players whose spots are secured when you've got people out there trying to make a name for themselves and take people's heads off?
So the thing about that is, Mike, coaches is smart. They don't put you out there with those type of guys.
Right.
It's kind of like a gentleman's bet where, okay, I'm gonna play. The coaches kind of get together before the game and say, I'm gonna play my starters for 2 series, and then after that, we're done. We're rolling everybody. And they kind of make an agreement upon that. And that's why you see when the twos come out, typically the other team's twos is out. You won't go out there ones versus 2 not going to put you in that situation because they understand the mentality of people trying to make the team. So the guys that Deshaun Watson will be going against is guys who should be secure in Jacksonville.
Tyvis, you touched on something earlier about doing this for Deshaun. And when Jay was on, we sort of disagreed about, Jay said, if he's out for the year, I wouldn't play him. It's not worth the risk. What benefit is there? My point is, if he's eligible to play, and that's if the ruling comes down between now and tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. My point is, the joint practices with Philadelphia are going to be more productive the way that NFL camps are structured now. That's where he's really gonna get more out of it. But tomorrow night is for Deshaun and his mental health and his morale and the fact that he already missed a year and he could miss next year. This is for him to get him back on the field and sort of let him feel that again. And I know there's a lot of people who don't care about Deshaun's mental health. They don't care about his morale, but the Browns have to care about that because they're giving him $230 million. So what is the reason behind, do you think? And I also said ownership plays a factor in this as well. Ownership's paying him $230 million. They want to see him on that field Friday night. So why do you think they came to the decision of everything I just blathered on about? Why did they come to the decision to play him tomorrow night?
Like I said, you don't want a guy to go 2 years without playing. You know, this guy, we still, at this point in time, we don't know. Right now, it's 6 games, right? Yep. Everybody, we all think it's going to go to a year, but at this very moment, it's 6 games. So we're going off of that because we don't know what Peter C. Harvey's going to do. He might just throw a fine on the thing and he still be able to play this season. We don't know. So until we got that, you have to go off of the fact that it's 6 games. You still got to get this man ready to play. You have to move forward with the hopes that he will play this season. So I think that's one of the reasons why he'll be playing in this game. And like you say, ownership wants to see, we put all this money in this guy. Let's see if it's going to really make a difference. And on top of that, you got to do something for the fans. You know, you still have fans, Brown fans, who are still behind this franchise and still want to see, you know, just even if he doesn't play this season, we still want to see what it looks like. We still want to be excited about something. We are moving off of a guy who did take this team to the playoffs and win a game. So we need to get somebody to be behind, even though if it is this year or if it's next year. So I think that's another reason why. And if he can go out there and be electric, man, they'll be counting the days down till he's back on their field.
Can we role play for a second? I want to role play because you said something the other day that blew my mind, and we were talking about it with Jay when we were talking. Well, we were talking about the CBA and the fact that the players can't be happy with that. The fact that Goodell still has final say in this, and I said that's collectively bargained and it's a negotiation. So if the players don't want Roger to have final say, they're going to have to give something back. And you went right to the pensions, and that's
what they told us.
That blew my mind. So let's play this out. So it's 2029, and we're getting ready to renegotiate the CBA, right? And I'm the players union, and I say we don't want Roger to have final say over personal conduct issue policies. What do you as the league, how do you respond to that?
Well, I don't think they're going to go for the pensions on that. I mean, they're going to fight that as hard as they can because they want to be in control, and they don't want to get this league to be like the NBA or the MLB. I think if they do decide, if they can't come up to an agreement, they're going to call the players bluffs. They're going to say, well, forget it. We locking it down until we can come up with something. And in their mind, as history have shown, the players will fold. By the time we get closer to them games, the players will fold. What will really change things will be if the players actually go through with it and miss games. That's where it was like, all right, hold on. Now y'all really affecting our money. Hold on. Let's talk about this Rodgers situation. You know, he did make some bad judgments. We could get behind y'all on this one. So I think that's what it's going to take. If I'm the NFL or NFLPA, I would start some type of fund right now to just stash money away to be able to hold players over so they are able to go through this lockout and not feel obligated to crack and have to go back to playing.
But this issue would not lead to a work stoppage. This is just one small component of the CBA. Players are far more concerned with money. You think that this and how the personal conduct policy could be a sticking point? Because to me, you're right. It always comes down to money. It comes down to the dispersal of money. Who gets what, how much you get is always the overriding factor to something like this. This is sort of a secondary issue. But I'm just wondering, do you think this will ever change, or will it always be Roger has final say?
I think it's one of those things that if you wanted to change, you have to do something that you've never done before, and missing the games would be. Now, I agree with you. I don't think to a player's mindset that because they're gonna think it's not really. I'm not gonna be in that position until you're in that position.
Yep.
Like it's not gonna bother me. All I can we get them guaranteed contracts and can we get better health care? That'll be the stuff that's on the front of their mind. I think one of the. As a matter of fact, I looked at it before I got on the show today. You want to know what some of the key things that happened in this CBA? The training camp rules and shortened preseason was number one. They went to a 17-game season. The playoffs expand from 12 to 14 teams. The roster sizes increased, including practice squad. The revenue sharing went to 48% guaranteed. They raised the minimum salaries. There are fewer fines, so people are allowed to smoke a little weed.
Hey-o. Josh Gordon's like, why now? Where'd this come from?
Salary increase. Those were like the 9 key things that happened in this new CBA that they got accomplished. So I guess that's if the players was like, hey, especially the weed.
We need another lower third now that says former NFL star guarantees player strike to start season. And just real quick, can you imagine if they really did strike over this? Like, as much as the league is already mad at the Browns, what if we stopped football because the Players Association went on strike because they wouldn't let our kind of creepy quarterback play football, and no one gets to watch good football because of us? You're welcome, league. Welcome to our world. That's nice.
And that's the thing. People can't get it mixed up. It's not about Deshaun Watson. It's about the process. You have to be able to separate the two. And I agree that a lot of people will look at it like, if I'm playing for the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm like, we're going on strike for him?
In defense of Deshaun Watson.
I don't think they're to understand that, like, it's not about Deshaun. It's about the fact that the NFL got all this power and we don't want that.
Yes, it's just an imperfect
Deshaun
case.
Deshaun Watson is not this ain't the right time because everybody's not going to be able to get off the fact that we're doing this for Deshaun Watson.
Like, the Kaepernick thing might have been a better thing to rally around just from a PR perspective than trying to rally around this one.
Hey, Tyvis, when you were part of the last CBA negotiation, when you guys were going through and talking out the pros and cons of each asset in this, did you know when you signed the agreement or voted yes or no that one of the components of this?
I'm on record.
So when you voted no, did you know that Roger Goodell had final power? Was this even part of the CBA that you knew existed when you voted on it?
I did not. I did not know that, actually. It was one of those things that it wasn't in my mind. All we cared about was the money at the time. The money and them loosening the weed rules. That was a big thing too. Nobody paid any attention to the fact that Roger had the thing. Because at the end of the day, we all here just to get paid. We trying to make as much money as we can. We understand that this job is only a set amount in number of years. So we got to make sure we can get as much as we can. Forget all who got the power, as long as we getting paid. And I think that's what our downfall was. We hadn't. Well, and then on top of that, it's the NFLPA's job to inform us on this stuff too. And I don't think they did a great job of doing that either.
Would it have changed your vote had you known this was part of the CBA?
My vote was no. So,
what didn't you like about it? No. Why'd you vote no? What didn't you like about it?
I voted no because my higher ups told me that this deal was not good and we should vote no. And I listened to them. I obviously they was in the league more. They understood the things about it more. And I was like, I trust their judgment. Like, obviously, I didn't want a 17th game either. But then they was like, oh, they getting rid of a preseason game. So technically it's still the same amount of games. And I was like, you're right about that. But if the higher ups telling you no, then they know something. And I really didn't do a good job of asking why no. I just was like, if they say no, then I'm not going to be that guy that says yes. If these people, or everybody tells me no, I'm not going to be the one to say yes.
And Tyvis, to your point, before pre-COVID, when I was in the Browns locker room, I would talk to players. And I did a story, it kind of led into this. I did a story on if you were commissioner for a day, what would you change? And some of the answers were fascinating. It was great. It was shorten the preseason, get rid of Thursday night games. They hate Thursday night games.
Everybody hates Thursday.
Yeah, but it led to a deeper conversation where guys were like, "We don't like this, this, and this, and you're gonna see it. You wait till the CBA comes up, and we're united, and boom, 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 and we're gonna fight this, this, and this." And then it passed like that, and I'm like, "No, wait a minute. What happened to this? What happened to this united front? We're gonna fight." No, they didn't fight anything. They just rolled over.
Caved.
We got bamboozled, man. I was sitting there when it passed. I couldn't believe it. Even my agent was like, "Tyvis, what did you vote?" And I told him I voted no. And he even was mad at me. Like, he said, "You should have voted yes." Like, he said, "You're getting $90,000 and blah, 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 blah. They adding more roster spots and they increasing salaries. Why would you vote no?" And I'm like, they told me to vote no, and that's what I'm doing.
Can I throw another conspiracy out there?
Please.
Still head of the Players Union, J.C. Tretter, unsigned right now, not playing anywhere. Is there something, can we make a conspiracy out of this? Can we say that the NFL owners all got together and made some sort of an agreement to buy him his own island if he would talk his players into whatever kind of deal they wanted to sign?
I am a little surprised that JC's still unsigned, and I do wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that, it was the JC protest last year. They had no OTA program in Cleveland, basically, because JC, as union president, said, "Nope, we're not doing this."
them into not doing it.
And I always wondered if that had anything at all to do with why he was not brought back to Cleveland.
Right.
And it's really curious. He was a good player.
Yeah,
He was
no
a
one
good
needs
player.
a really good offensive lineman
It's
right now.
fascinating
So
to me
why
that
is he
he's
not being
still-
signed? Do you think there's something there?
Tyvis, you're better prepared to answer than I am, but I do wonder if his role as union president has anything to do with the fact of why he's still unsigned.
Does it have a little bit to do? Probably so. You don't want you always want a guy who's just gonna go along with the plan.
Yeah.
Anybody that's going against the NFL. I mean, that's, how dare you do such a thing? We've been paying you and helping you take care of your family, and you're gonna go against us. So I think that does play a little bit of a situation of him not being signed. But I tell you what, as the season goes on and people start getting hurt, he'll find a job, because he is a really good player, and he was very productive in Cleveland. So we'll see.
What is there a player vibe about him? Do you know? Do people talk about him, and do they like him as being the head of the union, or do they not trust him? And I'm assuming this isn't helping his image right now with the players.
Don't bring that up. JC Tretter is a guy who nobody really speaks a lot of. He's one of those things where he just got the title, but
okay, is that more ceremonial?
We don't really communicate with the guy, if that's what you ask.
Right.
Like me as an undrafted guy in San Fran, I'm not about to talk to JC Tretter.
Yeah,
because every team is appointed like a guy who's in charge to, if you have questions about things with the NFLPA, every team gets a guy that you actually ask him, and then he'll talk to the higher ups about it. And
the union rep. Yeah, union rep.
Yeah.
Now, I do wonder, J.C. Tretter is really smart, obviously an Ivy League guy, but in the NBA, when there was issues that came up that the players felt like they need to address, LeBron, Chris Paul, some of the biggest stars in the game took over those positions of union president, vice president. Does it matter as much to the NFL? Would Tom Brady ever become union president? Patrick Mahomes, vice president? Will the stars of the stars of the stars ever take hold of that role? And do you think it would make a difference in any sort of negotiation if they did?
I think we need them to. It's just, I think it might be a lot. You need one of those guys who's just a leader and really cares about the players and are not afraid to put their name on the line. In this league, everybody wants to be the guy that's loved and liked by everybody. And if you're going to be the head of the NFLPA or the Players Association, then obviously the NFL is going to have some type of beef with you, because you're looking out for the best interest of the players and not helping us. And I think that's kind of where it's like, okay, do I want this responsibility, or am I good with just being loved by everybody and playing in the back? I think you have to have that. You know what? I care about my guys, and I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm just trying to do what's best for my guys. And it's going to be hard to get those quarterbacks to do it, but that's what we need if you want this thing to change.
That's why we got to just go nuts with it. Make it Aaron Rodgers. Everybody in training camp has to do ayahuasca as soon as they get there. Put that in the contract. How bananas would that be if he was in charge of making these decisions? Oh, That's my dream. New guy.
And Pat McAfee, bring him back as
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Bring
Yes.
Pat McAfee.
I'll vote for Pat. I'll vote for Pat. Pat don't care. He'll do what's right.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a look at some crazy Brown stats heading into
Yes.
the 2022
I'd love
season?
to look at some crazy Brown stats.
So here's how we're going to do it. Anthony's going to pull a stat on the screen.
Okay.
I'm going to read the stat, and we're going to decide whether it's true or false.
Okay.
Seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah, it
Simple
does.
enough.
Anthony, take the first one whenever you're ready. Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is tied with Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers for the second highest career passer rating at 104.5 in NFL history. Only
that's
Patrick
true.
Mahomes has a
that's
better
true.
rating.
That's true.
I'll go true as well. It's just a very specific stat, and these two guys said that it's true, so I'll agree.
Tyvis?
Well, I actually seen that stat a couple of days ago, and I know it's true because I seen it and I couldn't believe it, but it's true.
All right.
Drum roll.
We're going 3 for true.
It's true. One for one. Let's go. Yeah, come on, come on.
Hey. 3 for 3,
Anthony, let's
boys.
take the next one. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett is only 4 sacks away from passing Clay Matthews for the most sacks in franchise history.
He's really close. I don't know if that's the
true.
number. Yeah, I'm going to say that's true because I know he's really close.
I'm going to, just to be a jerk, say that you changed it by one number and it's 5 or 3, so I'll go false.
I like that Polk thinks I'm cynical like that. I appreciate the thought that he thinks I'm that devious, but it is true.
You weren't that tricky.
He is 4 sacks away. What week, before we move on, what week does he pass Clay Matthews as the Browns' all-time leader? in
Week
sacks?
1, he's getting 5 on Baker.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's probably a good bet. No, I'll go for real. I'll say that he'll do that in week 3.
Week 3, okay. Next one. The next two are both Nick Chubb-related facts.
Okay.
Nick Chubb is 308 rushing yards away from passing Kevin Mack for 5th most in team history.
Wow.
That sounds true, but we've had 2 trues, so I'm going to say false.
I'm with you on that one, Jason. I'm going false. All of them can't be true. I'm going false.
Right?
And I'll either go down in flames or try to catch up by saying true.
That is true.
Yes.
There you go.
Back in the game.
Back on top. 3 for 3 on
Back
the true.
in the game.
308 yards away from passing. We'll go to the next one.
Okay, great.
Another 1,000-yard rushing season for Nick Chubb would make him the first Cleveland Brown since Jim Brown to have 4 consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons.
Another rushing season for Nick Chubb. Make him the
I
first.
might say true. I'm going to say true. because
Yeah,
I can't really think of another name.
Biner didn't do it 4 in a row. Mack didn't do it 4 in a row. They've been trashed for 20 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll say true.
Wait, didn't Peyton Hillis have 10 amazing years here? No, I'll go true on this as well.
And it is true.
All
I am
right.
not cynical enough to change it by one number. I am cynical enough to put 4 trues on there.
Yeah.
So mind bends you into thinking one of them would be false.
Yeah, that was smart.
Thank you. With Nick Chubb, though, real quick before we get into our next topic, and Tyvis, this is for you too. You put in the group chat, Tyvis, you lowering the shoulder on Jet McKinnon in a practice. And I know you're proud of that hit. My question is with running backs in particular. Chubb maybe plays a series if he plays at all tonight. Mm-hmm. Is there any one position, Tyvis, that needs more reps in the preseason than others, or is it for certain positions it just doesn't matter what happens in the preseason? They could step in week 1 and be ready to go.
You want your offensive line to get a lot of reps because you want those guys to communicate and be able to talk it out and pick up blitzes, because that's what gets tricky, is picking up those blitzes. So you want those guys to be able to communicate and talk those out. Outside of that, I mean, you want your wide receivers to be clicking on all cylinders. If anybody's going to get a ton of reps, it'll be the wide receiver room, because you need to make sure that they running routes crispy and they have the ability to get open. Quarterbacks, obviously, you want to protect them, and running backs, you barely want to play them at all because with the fear of injury. But yeah, I would think if I was going on the offensive side of the ball, that's how I would divvy that up.
Would DBs be the group that could just roll out of bed and walk on the field? Because I would think of all of them. Am I wrong that DBs would be the ones, if you make a trade on Wednesday, you could still play on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As long as you got a safety out there that's gonna tell me what I got,
Yeah.
then we good to go. Just tell me what I got, and I can figure the rest out.
So DBs need the least amount of game preparation work to be available to be ready for Sunday?
Yeah, I would think that this is how I break it down, Jason. It's at DB. This is why I love playing DB. At DB, it's only 4 to 5 coverages. You either playing man to man, cover 2, cover 3, or cover 4.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's it. It can't be anything else. It has to fall under one of those categories. You figure out what they call it and you run it. Only thing about that is you need to, from a technique standpoint, you need to get out there and get those reps for that, because obviously different wide receivers are. You got speedy wide receivers, you got big wide receivers, you got fast wide receivers, you got crafty wide receivers. So you want to be able to go against all of that. So when the season comes, you will have a technique and a plan of how you're going to play each receiver that has a different skill set.
Tyvis, would you have tackled Nick Chubb like you tackled Jet McKinnon?
I wouldn't have hit him like that. No, not at all. Because Nick Chubb is the guy who you have to go down low and you have to wrap up and really try to drive him. Jet was just a lower the shoulder, boom. Man. You seen what I did? You know what I did?
We're gonna have to clear by legal to play that video tomorrow, but it's quite the hit. Like, I burned Tyvis off the line the other day in our pre-show meeting. He couldn't come in. Whoa. Jet McKinnon on a different story.
Are you really gonna sit there a lot? Anthony, please come in. You were sitting right there.
I gotta be honest, Mike. I don't know if that's the truth.
Director Anthony right now.
It was my truth.
We all have our own truths.
Listen, what you didn't see was I caught the screen pass, and then the little spin move around Tyvis. Just what's the guy's name? AJ Mooney. Mooney?
No,
I Mooney you.
Mooney.
Jake Mooney you.
Wait a minute, Jason. You watch football. This man tried to run a screen, and I'm pressed man to man. He's gonna catch a screen, and I'm pressed.
He can't catch me though.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to end well for you.
I would like to see a reenactment of that, maybe live out in front of the station.
Who's playing QB?
I'll play QB. I can do that. Wait until Jay gets back. He'll want to do it.
Yeah.
McNuggets, I have a list going right now. You don't want to be on my list. It's my nephew, Jake Mooney, and if you want to be third on the list, I will gladly.
Why is your nephew number 1?
Because my nephew can't. So I didn't tell you the story. I'm sitting there one day, and my sister calls me. She FaceTimes me. She says, my son want to talk to you. So I'm like, oh, what did he do? And he says, Uncle Tyvis, I'll moss you. And I looked at him. You know how you don't give a reaction? It's like when I was doing the Giannis thing and nobody even reacted to what I was saying.
Right.
It was just like that. I'm just sitting there like, really? So he's going on this whole spiel about how, I'm not, he thinks he's faster than me, and he's been so successful in Muni League that he
How old
thinks
is he?
he's ready. He is 15. He's 15
Oh, this
now.
poor child.
And I politely said to him, I said, whenever you want to do it, we can do it. But I'm going to let you know something. I'm not your friend. And I'm going to let you know that there's levels to this thing. Just because I bounced around in the league and got cut a couple of times, don't get it twisted. I am a very good player.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm not saying.
It reminds me real briefly of what I think I've talked about this. Brian Scalabrine, remember him?
Oh yeah.
Brian's
And
the
everybody's
Red Mamba.
Yeah, everybody's always like busting him up because he's so corny looking and he's a ginger and he's a big goon and stuff. So everybody's going at him on social media all the time and trolls saying, "I'd take you, I'd take you, take you." And he met them in a park. And he just murdered these guys.
100-0 in one-on-one.
Yeah, they played college ball too, these other guys and stuff. Because if you make it to that level, you're better than
You are different than everybody else.
percent of people. I mean,
No, Tyvis is right. There are levels to this. I didn't get beat Tyvis off the line. But granted, there was not a quarterback saying hike, so we may have to redo it. I probably can't beat Tyvis in football. Maybe I'll beat him in basketball.
We will record the attempt though after a show one time, and then we'll show it the next.
And we'll
day.
show it at your funeral.
Yeah, we'll show it. We'll show it to your.
If I lose to the Quell, there will be a funeral. So you can just play that as the eulogy on loop. But speaking of college DBs, Tyvis, a recent list by CBS just came out ranking the top 10 coaches in college football, and a guy at Ohio State that you didn't play for Ryan. He was the offensive coordinator when you were there, right?
No, he wasn't. It was another guy. He actually came, I think, the year after I left.
Well, either way, and let's pull up the list if we can. Ryan Day came in at number 6. Here's the first 5. Tough to argue with the top couple. You had Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Lincoln Riley, and Jimbo Fisher rounding out the top 5. And then 6 through 10 starts with Ryan Day, Brian Kelly at LSU now, Kyle Whittingham at Utah, Jim Harbaugh, and Mike Gundy. So, Tyvis, let you start with this. Is Ryan Day a top 5 head coach in college football right now?
Absolutely. I think I would really put him above Lincoln Riley. I mean, if you look at it, Lincoln Riley hasn't even been to the big dance yet. He's had some great teams with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, but he's never made it past the or the semi-round to make it to the championship. At least Ryan Day has been there. Obviously, it didn't go well, but he has been there. So with that being said, I think that, and on top of that, he's produced elite quarterbacks as well. I mean, he had 2 quarterbacks go first round. So if we going off of that alone, I mean, puts him right there above or next to Lincoln Riley. So I don't understand how they got him at 6.
That's jacked up. Why is Jimbo Fisher 5? What's Jimbo Fisher done? He's got a lot of oil money in Texas.
He won a national championship at Florida State, though.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
That might be the one thing that differentiates those two if you're comparing them side by side. But I agree.
If I have to look at Jimbo Fisher and Ryan Day, I'm taking Ryan Day over Jimbo Fisher every day of the week. And Kirby Smart at 2 is a lot of what have you done for me lately. I'd still put Dabo at 2. To me, it's Nick and Dabo and everybody else right now in college football. That's kind of insane, too.
I think it's a tier 1 of Saban, Dabo, Kirby. Then drops. A tier. I mean, not a big drop, but then a tier. Then you have Ryan Day.
Why you got Kirby like that, though? Like, Kirby.
He just won the championship. He should have won it the year Tua won it his first year. I mean, they choked. He has not performed well in the biggest games, but
I'd put Nick and Dabo and then everybody else. That's
just
me.
Do it 2 then.
Yeah.
We're going to do it like that. Yeah, Nick and Dabo is definitely, because them 2 have won it a couple of times. I think Dabo's won it a couple of times.
They won it.
But
and Clemson was trash before he got there.
Yes.
As far as Kirby, I mean, he literally just won it. This is like his first time winning it.
Yeah, but they've been to the championship
like 2 years ago.
They've been to the championship, though. They should have beaten Alabama in the championship game, 2017, 2018, when Tua came in after Jalen Hurts was terrible in the first half, threw the pass to Devonta Smith to win it in overtime. I mean, they should have won that, and I think bringing Georgia with those expectations up to the caliber they've been the last few years and being in the championship game twice deserves a little more credit. But also, he fumbled the bag with Justin Fields. I mean, we can't overlook that. That was the number 1 recruit in the country that year with Trevor Lawrence, and you look how one's career panned out in Clemson, which led to a national championship, and I think at least one other appearance in the championship game when they lost to LSU. Justin Fields was a backup in Georgia before going to Ohio State.
So let me ask you this. If Ryan Day goes out there and win the championship this year, does that put him next to Kirby?
Hell yeah. Oh, absolutely. No question.
Okay.
No question.
Right.
He's 34-4 in 3 seasons. He's 34-4 in 3 seasons.
Is he? So you got him over Lincoln Riley.
He's over Lincoln Riley now.
It's not even close. Listen, I got an A&M thing right here. He's
above
Jimbo Fisher.
Is he 6? So why is this man 6? You know what, though? I like it. I'm not mad. Y'all know I'm a fan of people not being at number 1. If you ain't going to put me at number 1, don't even put me on the list. I need that extra motivation. And Ryan Day is a huge competitor. So him looking at that and seeing that, I'm sure he already got a lot on his mind, but I think that definitely added more fuel to the fire. And this team, like I say, is built to win, especially if that defense comes to play. So he should be holding that trophy up this season.
Hey, Tyvis, I don't think I've asked you this. Ryan, to me, looks like an NFL coach, talks like an NFL coach, obviously has NFL experience. How long do you think – I think he's going to the NFL at some point. How long do you think he'll be in Columbus?
I think that, you know what, and it's very controversial because I keep saying this and people was like, why do you say that? It's because it's my thought. This is my thought and my opinion. I think the only thing that's keeping him at Ohio State is the fact that he hasn't won a championship. Ryan Day is one of those guys who he doesn't like to leave without his job being completely done. And I think right now that's what's keeping him up at night is trying to get that college national championship. I think once he wins that, I think if I don't know, the Bears came calling and said, hey, we want to hire you as the head coach, I think he'd go. I really do. But I think the fact that he hasn't won it is why he's still at Ohio State. If he's won it, I think he might be y'all crack me up with this elite beard thing. But once he wins it, I think that he will be looking. If an opportunity comes in the NFL and he thinks it's worthy, he'll take it.
Well, I got a question about the beard, Tyvis. Were you here the day that Ryan Day came on?
Absolutely.
Well, do you remember Bull asking if he had too nice of a beard to win a championship and that the only coaches that win championships have scraggly beards?
He said you need to be like Bill Belichick and just shave it and stuff like that and look terrible.
Do you believe I love Bull, but I think it's one of his more ridiculous takes. Are you a believer in a coach can't look good and still play good?
No, no, not at all. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Coaching to me is about, can I communicate with my guys and get them to play above what they believe in themselves. Can I get them to go out there night in and night out and give me everything they got? And do they believe in me? Do they trust in me? And ultimately, can I make them better men in life? And I think Ryan Day checks all those boxes. He's got that competitive swagger in him. He backs down from nobody, and that's half the challenge right there. If you got a coach that get kind of timid in big games, like you can't ride for a guy like that. But if you got a guy who's going up and going for 2-point conversions and going for it on fourth down and rolling the dice on big games, like, oh yeah, I can ride with this guy. So I think he definitely he got all the right characteristics to be a great coach. Bull need to go somewhere with that. That's ridiculous.
Is this Ohio State defense back, Tyus, before we move on? Last question.
We'll see, man. I tell you what, I'm hearing all good things. The best thing I heard, Jim Knowles came out and said that he wants to be a safety-driven defense, and I like that. And Ryan Day said he expects this to be a top 10 defense, and Jim Knowles came back and said, I wish he would have said top 5. So he has high expectations for this defense. They have all the pieces, with Jack Sawyer, JTT, and Zach Harrison. Obviously, those guys have had flashes of being great at pass rushing. They just need to be more consistent. It's a couple of injuries at the corner position right now with Jordan Hancock, who I thought would have an unbelievable season this year. He's battling like a knee injury or something like that, but they said it's not serious, so we'll see about that. If he comes back and he's healthy enough, I think that this team can be, I ain't going to say top 10 and I ain't going to say top 5. I need them to be top 20 at least.
Tyvis, you're tapped in there. I know you still talk to a lot of people in the organization. Is there an under-the-radar storyline that's coming out of Ohio State right now that maybe people aren't aware of?
No, it's just a bunch of the most underrated story is about the defense. It's not underrated. It's the biggest thing. Another guy that everybody's forgetting about is Julian Fleming. He was a guy who's probably one of the top-rated wide receivers we've ever recruited at Ohio State, and he's faced a bunch of injuries that's kept him off the field, but he's been looking really good. It's been question marks of who will be the third wide receiver. Everybody knows Jackson Smith and Jigma, and everybody knows Marvin Harrison Jr. from him having that incredible Rose Bowl game, but that third wide receiver spot has been the one that's been questionable, and right now Julian Fleming is looking like the guy that's going to take on that position, and he's primed to have a big season, so that's the name to be on the lookout for this year.
Before we get to good bet, bad bet, we'd be remiss not to talk about the Guardians real quick. The first place,
man.
Cleveland
Roll the
Guardians.
clip.
First place, Cleveland Guardians, everybody. It's
Jason,
amazing.
I know we haven't seen you since Monday. There we go. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Don't
leave.
In your wildest dreams, could you have fathomed with 52 games left in the regular season, the Cleveland Guardians would be sitting alone atop the AL Central standings, looking down at the Twins, the White Sox, and, of course, the World Series?
No, I thought that they would be in it just because of the division they're in. If this isn't the worst division in baseball, it's second only to the NL Central. But I thought the White Sox would have a stranglehold on this division by now. They have so much talent. They've just had a ton of injuries, and they haven't had a lot of things go their way. It's incredible. Going back to spring training, some of the conversations I was having with some of the people around the organization, and they said, like, yeah, listen, we tried for Matt Olson. We were in on some of these other guys, and we just pivoted. We're going to play these kids, and we're going to see what we have with all these kids. And these kids are not playing like kids. And no matter who they run out there, Oscar Gonzalez has probably exceeded expectations. Nolan Jones was awful for a year and a half in the minors, and now he's come up and produced and contributed and played well. And no matter who they put in there, Stephen Kwan obviously has had a great rookie year. No matter who they put in there, these guys are just stepping in and producing right away. So Zach Meisel and I just did a piece the other day kind of looking at the big long-term picture of they still have a lot of decisions to make. They still have to figure out shortstop. I try to make the case Ahmed Rosario is the long-term answer. Zach says no. They have to figure out right field. I think Kwan has sort of established himself in left. Miles Straw is probably going to be in center. Right field, you got a lot of guys to pick from there. But they do have a lot of decisions to make this offseason. They still have to sort of make all these trades that we've been talking about. The 40-man roster is out of balance. They're going to have to start bundling these guys. We've been saying that for a year, and they haven't done it, and they're still in first place.
Absurd.
Yeah.
So it's totally absurd. And at the end of the piece, we get to the end of the piece, I'm like, hey, man, by the way, they're in first place. And we haven't even talked about, like, this year and what they're accomplishing.
Right.
They still have rotation issues they have to figure out. They still have a couple spots in the order they have to figure out. But I've said for years, this is the best run team in town, and it's not even close. Given the payroll restrictions that they have, the way that they're able to operate, the fact that the Mets,
self-imposed payroll restrictions.
well, and they are from ownership, but the fact that the Mets, Mike Chernoff's hometown team, could come to him and say, we want you, and he said, no, I'm good where I'm at. The fact Chris Antonetti won't leave, the fact Terry Francona's been here as long as he has, that speaks to the culture that this team has, and it's remarkable. It's been an incredible run. And, hey, keep it going for 50 more games and see what happens.
I was lower on them going into the season, like a lot of people. I think I had them.
I thought they'd be 500.
I figured just under 500, I think I called. And it's obviously been a wonderful surprise. And I love what they're doing. I love watching it. There is a little part of me that still gets bugged, and you kind of touched on this right here. Whenever we have one of these seasons where we manage to do this, and they deserve all the credit in the world, management and Terry and everybody, we say just proves, that they can do it with no money. And then that ends up being our excuse for a lot of people. And Jay's an apologist for this all the time. And if he were here, I'd say it. You hear me, Jay? All right, you do this. Where he's just like, yeah, but they've got the most wins consistently over this many years. The management makes all the right decisions, as if that negates the argument, or as if they just wouldn't know how to, thank you, they just wouldn't know how to, like they'd somehow lose their magic if they had money to work with. Like they'd be bad at their jobs all of a sudden if they weren't up against the wall.
If they had real players and not unknown minor leaguers to deal with.
Right.
And that's not a shot at the guys they have up, but a lot of their roster is guys who most of Cleveland wouldn't recognize walking down the street, or even if you said their name out loud. Tyler Freeman. How many people know who Tyler Freeman is right now? It's a small minority of the Cleveland population, and yet these guys are still finding ways to win. And I'd argue this is maybe Terry Francona's best managerial job in a long time.
I was at that 1-0 win on Sunday, and I already forgot the name of the dude who hit the only home run. What?
Luke Maley.
Oh, yeah. Who was it?
Luke Maley.
Yeah.
His first home run since 2019, by the way.
Thank you. First home run.
Tyvus' favorite player.
But that's exactly, I'm illustrating your point. He did the only thing in that game. And I was just like, who's this child that's batting right now? It was like that.
But with all the ownership groups, you have to take with good and the bad. And I'll set the Haslam's aside because I don't know what good we've seen from them, really, frankly, to this point.
Yeah.
But with the Dolans, I'll put it this way. The argument I keep hearing is Dan Gilbert should buy the Guardians and spend. Okay, if you want Dan Gilbert, you just lost Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, and Terry Francona because they don't work for psychopaths.
Right.
So
fair point.
So it's one or it's one or the other.
There is something between Dan Gilbert though,
and there is, and I
ownership.
I think within 5 years you'll see it. Give it 5 years. The David Blitzer group that's in place now, they have big plans for the area, and I've talked about this, I believe, on the show. They have big areas for around the stadium, mixed-use development, trying to redevelop some of the land around Progressive Field, and then pouring that money back into the payroll. It's not that Blitzer's going to come in and start writing checks to cover the losses and start taking on these absurd contracts and losses. But if they can buy the land around Progressive Field, if they can develop that, if they can create sort of passive revenue streams out of that and pour that into the franchise, they feel like that's how they win, and that's how this whole thing changes where we stop talking about payroll.
But you understand my point that I love what's happening, but it's this year of unexpected success is going to lead to another year of saying, well, we don't need money. Them getting off the hook again for not paying up.
They did have money to spend this year. They didn't use it. They poured a lot of it back into the Jose contract extension. I do think that there will be money next year to go out and make a deal, to make if there's a free agent out there that fits with where they're going. Okay. I do think that there is more payroll flexibility. I think they're just sort of keeping their powder dry a little bit right now and waiting for the right deal.
Tyvus, last point before we go to good bet, bad bet. Are you as surprised as we are the Guardians find themselves in first place right now?
A little bit. I mean, after hearing all the backlash about them not making no trade, but it's one of those things that it seems like the young guys that's coming in. First of all, we need to trust that Terry Francona is doing a great job. He's proven year in and year out that no matter what he has, he's going to get the best out of that. And for some odd reason, we've lost sight of that. I don't know why. That's one. And two, these young guys is making the most of their opportunity. They're doing everything that they can. If you get a chance to go out there, it's like my final take yesterday. You get an opportunity to make a play, you make it so you can stick around. And that's what these guys is doing.
All right, let's do good bet, bad bet real quick. Run through it. We got top 5 and final takes still coming up. Anthony, we have no Guardians in the good bet, bad bet segment today because we have preseason NFL football and a very important streak on the line. a very, very important streak on the line, which we'll talk to in our second bet. So let's take the first one when it's ready. It involves the New York Giants and the New England Patriots. A preseason matchup tonight, 7 o'clock. Breaking news.
All right.
Breaking news, there's a game tonight. NFL is back.
Way to pump them up, Anthony. Good job.
The Patriots are 3-point underdogs versus the Giants tonight. The Giants starters are playing. The Patriots starters are not playing. Mm-hmm. I think Giants with the points. I take it. Yeah, who knows, really?
It's preseason football.
There's only one preseason game that matters.
You never know.
It matters to
never know
Tyvus.
what's gonna happen. It does, but you just never know. Like, if any good late round picks or any exciting players that the Patriots or Giants have. You know what? I am want to see that Bailey Zepp guy or whatever his name is. I think he plays for the Patriots.
He does.
He led the NCAA in like passing yards last year or something like that.
He's splitting reps tonight with Cleveland native Brian Hoyer.
Oh, nice.
So reason to tune in, 7 o'clock NFL Network. But the main attraction of tonight's preseason slate, let's take the second bet. The Baltimore Ravens are putting their 21-game preseason winning streak on the line tonight.
Right.
I'm sure it's very important to them.
They have not lost a preseason game since 2015, which is absurd.
It is insane.
It actually is absurd.
Yeah.
They're getting they're favored by 3.5 points tonight. How do you go against the Ravens?
Yeah, no, I went Ravens. I mean, I don't
We all
think.
did.
Oh, okay. And and also I did go New England just because I think all those young players are terrified of Bill Belichick and won't screw up. And I think most of preseason is just about not screwing up and doing the wrong thing. So that's why I did that, and obviously keep the streak going with the Ravens. So that's why I went that way.
Tyvus, did you ever play the Ravens in the preseason?
I did not, but they, for some odd reason, they do have it figured out that it means something to them and it's important. I think it's because of that great defense that they established, and so they probably keep a lot of guys out the end zone. I was gonna go against it, but then I thought and said, no, they're not about to blow it on this. No,
Here's my
even though
favorite.
the Titans will be tough.
My favorite preseason stat of all time. There have been 2 teams in NFL history to go 0-16, and it was the Lions and the Browns. In both of those situations, both teams went 4-0 in the preseason. Is that not fantastic?
The dichotomy of two worlds. All right, let's get the last bet in before we go to top 5. Is over 33.5 points in the Titans-Ravens game. I like points in preseason. I think the defense is always step behind. So I took over, but who knows?
So yeah, who knows to any of these. But so we bet the same way. Did you bet the same way, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so we all bet the exact same way.
Y'all went over?
I went over, yeah.
I ain't. No, I'm not.
Tyvus went under, and Jay had a couple different ones in there.
Oh, okay, good.
There's a
All
little
right.
differentiation.
That's good.
Anthony, you ready for your top 5?
Yeah, so I'm going to do it in the right order right now. So whenever we do top 5, it's brought to you by Roundstone Insurance. Ultimate Top 5 is sponsored by Roundstone Insurance. Roundstone offers a better alternative for affordable and quality health care. For more than a decade, Roundstone Insurance has been saving small and mid-sized businesses money on average of 20%. 20%. Contact us today to learn how you can get great health care benefits that your employees will love and save money too.
Great.
And what's the list today, Anthony?
So today is my top 5 favorite Netflix originals because I had it made already and we needed one really quick.
No, that's really good. I think all the viewers will be really interested to know what you're watching on
100%.
Netflix right now, Anthony. Let's do this.
All right, so let's go with number 5. Number 5 is Stranger Things. Hopefully you guys have seen some of these.
Sure.
Stranger Things very good. New season was very good.
Have not seen the new
I've never
season.
watched the episode.
You have not?
Never. It's too late. It's happened. They on like season 3. It's too late.
You're also too young to even appreciate the nostalgia of the 80s stuff. Like I get to at least watch it and be like, I remember that telephone. But you wouldn't even get that joy from it. You wouldn't dig it, probably.
I only watched like the first 3 episodes and bailed. Maybe
Yeah.
I need to go back and start
Well,
over.
I think
It's pretty good.
It's because you're not a 15-year-old child.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a 25-year-old child, I'm catching back up to it, and I like it.
Okay, well, that's great. All right, what's your next one?
Good first choice.
Next one is probably something you guys haven't heard of, is Castlevania.
Nope, never heard of it.
I'm in the club where I still think animated shows are good because I'm born in 1997.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. We'll
Great
see you
choice.
tomorrow.
Great choice.
Hey, how are the numbers looking right now?
I don't know. Steve, can we put up the Deshaun Watson stuff? I'm lying out here.
Can we put the Deshaun Watson clips on top of his top 5 list of Netflix shows that he's watching?
I was
We'll
kidding.
run through these last ones pretty quick.
No, you're doing great.
Number 3 is going to be The Witcher. It's arguably better than
All right.
Game of Thrones.
I love The Witcher. It's not a great show, but it's a very entertaining show.
Yeah.
That's
Never
how
saw a
I would
minute of it.
describe
I never played the games or read the books, but the show's fantastic.
Me either. It's a lot of fun. Really takes
Okay.
you to a special world.
And number 2,
Nope.
Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders is good.
I've heard good things about
Peaky
this one,
Blinders is good.
actually.
It is
Yeah.
definitely worth the 7-season investment.
I
love
didn't get
Peaky
that
Blinders.
far in. I did get a few seasons in, and I do dig it, and I like the fashion. I want to dress like the Peaky Blinders guys.
Pull it off.
I could pull it off. And I could do a Peaky Blinders accent.
I can't watch show without subtitles.
Don't mess
Oh, you
with the
can't understand
Peaky
anything they say without
Blinders.
subtitles on it.
That's what they
Yeah.
sound like.
All right, wait a minute. This isn't all time. This is just current.
This is, yeah, I think this is pretty much just what I've watched in the last 2 years.
I haven't seen none of these.
All right.
I put this together really fast. Okay?
Tyvus only watches game films. I'm not surprised.
You're right. You're absolutely
watch-
That wasn't a
right.
shot, Tyvus. That was the truth.
This video of Nick Chubb lifting a lot of weight.
No, I'm too busy critiquing DB play.
All right, yeah. That's,
All right,
what-
Anthony,
that's
what's
why you
your
have
number
And the
15
last one
jobs.
is another animated show that I love is Arcane. It came out this summer. It is probably got one of the best stories.
Wait a minute. How can you have a top 5 Netflix and not have Ozark on there
Yeah.
anywhere?
I've never watched Ozark.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's the best one.
Mike has yelled at me in the office.
is
That's,
going
that's the
yes.
best one.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Also, what about Making a Murderer? Was that a Netflix original? That was good.
That was good.
I got
good.
2 episodes into that and dumped that one. I didn't like making it.
Tyvus, real quick before we do final takes, what's your favorite Netflix?
Is this
original
identical to your list, Tyvus?
I ain't never watched. I ain't never watched nothing on there. I've never heard. The only one I've ever even heard of was Stranger Things. Out of all of that, never even heard of.
I have a 19-year-old niece, and that looks like what would the algorithm would show her based on the stuff she's watched before.
Yeah.
Like it would show those 5 shows, just so you know. You guys should meet, actually. She's nice. So you guys have the same interests,
Playing
obviously.
matchmaker. Playing matchmaker. You
Yeah.
can Netflix and chill, right?
Yeah.
Final takes, guys.
Oh, yeah, man.
He's trying to move on.
Sorry.
Tyvus, you're first.
I'm on first.
But you gotta wait.
Play it. Yeah, here we go.
There it is.
I gotta think of one.
Boom.
All right, my final take today is coming in hot. I've been thinking about it. I've been sitting there weighing about this Browns season, and I really believe that the Browns, whether they get a quarterback or run with Jacoby Brissett, I do believe that this team will still make the playoffs. And it sounds crazy, but I'm going to tell you why. Nothing brings a team together more than adversity. And I think the way that Deshaun Watson has come into this organization and has brought an energy and a spark to this team, I think that they want to honor him if he's not there. They want to be like, bro, we're going to play our hearts out for you because you are our brother now. We love you and we care about you. So I think they're going to play above what they usually do, and they're going to find a way to get things done. And I think ultimately they're going to make the playoffs and have a season that Cleveland can respect.
Nice. Hopefully so. He wants to go. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, I stole a little bit of my thunder already with my final take, talking about the Guardians. This is appreciation and a question. I've heard from a lot of people after the name change, I'll never watch another game. I'm out. They lost me forever. And listen, I didn't like the name change either, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I thought I wasn't totally on board with it at first. It took me some time to come around on it. And ultimately I landed on, listen, if it offends people, it's really not worth it. It's just a name. What difference does it make? It doesn't matter what you call them. So I'm really curious for people who in January said that they were out and they'll never watch another game and they'll never support this team. Where are you now? Are you really not watching a first place team because of what it says across the front of their jersey? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's a little nonsensical. And I truly want to hear from people. If you are still out or if you've come around, find me on Twitter by Jason Lloyd. Email me at The Athletic, jlloyd@theathletic.com. I want to know if you've come around, if you've softened on the name change, and if you can appreciate what this organization has accomplished playing these kids, being a first place team with 50 games to go, or if you are still hell-bent and adamant on I will never watch another game because of the name change. I really want to know.
The cancel culture loves to cancel things they don't like, I've found in the past. People who complain about cancel culture are just like, you're canceled. I'm not going to watch your amazing baseball team anymore. I don't like the name. So here's my thing, guys. I feel like we're overlooking certain aspects of the Browns and their team because we get hung up so much on the negativity right now. Deshaun Watson, it's all anybody can talk about. And then you have your high-profile players that get all the credit. We have a 53-man roster. Is it 53?
Yes.
Good, thank you. 53-man roster. That's 52 players that aren't getting enough attention and love right now.
Good man.
Players that don't have, Kent State, players that don't have all this terrible stuff hanging over their heads, who are just going in and doing their jobs and doing them right. And that's why I want to focus on a couple of players, just one player in this segment, to say thank you to someone who doesn't get enough credit because we don't talk about them enough. And today I'm picking our long snapper. Do you guys know his name?
Ryan, I was gonna say Pomprian, but
John
he's
Smith.
old. He's old.
No, it's not John Smith. It's not Pomprian. His name is Charlie Hewitt.
Oh, I knew that.
He's the highest paid in the league, isn't he?
He is absolutely. He signed a contract. There he is, guys. There's your boy. Ironically, you don't know his name, even though he is the longest tenured Cleveland Brown on this team. He signed a 6-year contract extension in 2017, and that was when he became the highest paid long snapper in the league. He also looks like he could be like a weird cousin of mine from Medina, by the way. Regardless, Charlie Hewitt has been nothing but excellent in 6. Would you keep the track going? What are we doing? I lost my. Thank you very much. I'm trying to say thanks to Charlie, my boy. Charlie has been nothing but excellent, and the reason that we don't know his name is because he's so good at what he does. You don't want to know your long snapper's name. It means he's screwed up. Has he gotten into the Pro Bowl? I don't know. It didn't say on his Wikipedia page, but I don't think he has. I feel like that's something he would have updated and put on his Wikipedia page. But he deserves it because you don't hear any complaints. He got that contract 6 years ago. At the time, he was the highest paid. He's now the 5th highest paid because of, inflation and everything like that. But at the time, he was number 1. There he is again. Check him out, everybody. I just did a little research. Let's get to know him. He went to Central Florida. Go Knights. He was a walk-on for the Dallas Cowboys, and then he played for 6 other teams until he landed here with us. Did you just fade us together? Oh, it's unwholesome in a way. It is kind of like looking into a long snapping mirror. Anyways, last thing. He has actually been absolutely perfect so far for the Browns and has 20 solo tackles on special teams. I salute you, Charlie. Thank you for your service, sir.
20 tackles on special teams is impressive.
That's pretty good, right?
That's very impressive.
That's a lot of tackles.
Yes. Think
For a
about
long
that.
snapper who shouldn't be down there.
He has been here for like 8 years. Sometimes. Yeah.
2.5 tackles a year.
Yes. It also probably just says that our special teams is such trash that our long snapper has to tackle
make the
people all the time.
But the long snapper usually is untouched. He's unblocked. So
You're
he
so
snaps.
much better as a disembodied voice than you are if we can see you. 'Cause
The
there's
voice of God.
Some
The
people who
ghost of
just tuned
Titus.
in are like, can everyone else hear that?
Is
Am
that
I going
God
crazy?
talking on the set?
All right, so here's my final take. It's tough to follow Polk in a final take.
Yeah, you don't
That's why I
wanna do
went
that.
first.
It is very tough, so I'm going to change mine and just wing this off the top. No pun intended. When I move to new cities, one of the things I always look to do is find my favorite food, which is chicken wings. Mm-hmm. And I've been on a quest in my 5 months in Cleveland to find the best chicken wings possible. Mm-hmm. And I think I may have stumbled across them this past Saturday at Good Company. You guys been to Good Company?
Excellent.
Phenomenal. They brine them for 48 hours.
Yes.
Then they let them sit in a marinade for 24 hours. So it's a 72-hour process, lightly fried, and it was almost a magical wing experience. They fall off the bone like barbecue.
They're excellent wings.
They were delectable. Some of the best I've ever had in my entire life. And I need more of them.
Is this kind of shilling? Is this legal for you to just be pushing?
Well, listen, I'll tell you why I'm pushing.
Go ahead.
I need to know. I've only been here for 5 months. I do not know all the great food spots in Cleveland. So I need you, the people, the fans, the audience of UCSS, to send me your best wing locations. Help me on this wing journey to find the single best chicken wing in all of Cleveland. Hell, Ohio. I'll go on a journey for a great chicken wing.
Yeah.
Done it before. So, at the moment, Good Company, number 1 on my list of chicken wings in the greater Cleveland area. But I know there are other great establishments out there that I need to try their chicken wings. So please, tweet at me at Mike Lucas TV, tweet at UCSS, email us, tweet at Mike Polk, Jason, or Tyvis. I'm going to ask you guys after the show for ring recommendations.
Absolutely.
But I need to find the best wing in Cleveland, and I need your help.
You should
and I will not stop.
document this journey too.
I will document, and I will not stop till I find it. And that is my promise to every single one of you out there.
Go to
It's
open
impassioned.
pit.
Open
Go to
pit?
open pit. Kim's. Go get you some of that.
That's the first recommendation. I hope to have 100 by the end of the day.
Go to Kim's, man.
Yeah. That's
Favorite
good.
wing spot, real quick.
You know what? It's too complicated. We don't have enough time. It depends on my mood. It's like, what's your favorite song? I don't know. Am I sad? You know, that's how I feel about chicken wings. We'll have a whole conversation about it, but I can help you out. I can.
I'm a West Sider, so I actually haven't even had these, but we were talking about them last night. There's a place in Avon, ZZ's little dive bar, legendary chicken wings.
Wow.
But I've never had them.
ZZ's.
I haven't heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's great. I'll try that.
All right, well, that's our show. We survived without JG and Bo.
Yep.
That's right.
None of the
Speaking of-
grown-ups were here, and we're still standing.
Didn't crash the car, didn't drive over a cliff.
Bo's back tomorrow. I can only imagine the hot takes he has boiled up on
He is
his
so amped
7-day vacation.
So amped up.
We also have to call Jackson. And how about this? Aditi and Chris Rose at
Together.
once from Jacksonville.
It's a big
Cool.
show.
That's
Big
nice.
show tomorrow. Any final words?
No, believe in yourselves.
Tyvis?
Go Browns.
Go Browns. Run a 22-hour break. We will see you guys tomorrow. Anthony, Steve, great job.
Bye, guys. There he is. Where am I?
Separated at birth.
No,